facing somewhere weird, Jonathan. What's going on, everybody? Sorry, we're a few minutes starting late. That's my fault, and I'm currently trying to figure out how to get this thing full screen again. Where is the... there it is, full screen. Okay, we'll take that. I'll take that. Cactus Kicker's already in the house. I'm going to do a little... there you go. He's got some Spock, so he's going to take a sip from his tea. I'm going to take a sip from the mug that has my own logo on it.
Nice.
It's a magic mug.
I love this Spock mug, but to be honest, I feel a little inadequate knowing that Jonathan has those Spartan mugs that he and his brother drink out of.
Dude, those Kothon mugs are they're really cool. I'm trying to remember. Joel Cherico with Cherico Pottery was really, really kind to us. He had 2 or 3 left for sale, and I messaged him on Instagram one day last year and was like, hey, I really want to buy these, but I'm about to start work. Like, can you hold 2 of them for me until I get home this evening and can buy them? Can you just literally just put them on hold for 8 hours for me? And each one cost they were on sale at $200 a piece. Like, they are not cheap. And he told me, and I told him what it was for. I was like, I want to see if I can get him pretty quickly because we're interviewing Stephen Pressfield again, pretty soon, And he said, oh, you're interviewing Steve? I do tons of stuff with Steve. We designed these with Steve. I got some old ones in the back that are kind of prototypes. I'll just give them to you. I was like, okay, yeah, that'll work. Yeah.
Take it.
And they're apparently the ones that we have are a little smaller, and I don't think they have the internal lip,
Mm.
Yeah, they're pretty dope, man. He's a real sweetheart, and he works a lot, man. I mean, they crank out tons of stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, I got to get on that. I got to get one of those Kothon mugs.
Yes, I'm going to get that right after I get my. What's the shirt, Jonathan? I was trying to order that we were having a bunch of problems with.
Oh yeah, well I think it was maybe one of the aliens or just demons you can shoot shirt.
That's it. Yes.
Yeah.
So, I need one of those too.
Yes, you do. Dude, yes, you do. Yeah.
We designed 2 different variants of that shirt, and they both turned out really well. But the problem that Gabe was having with that was Teespring is so expensive that in order for the 10 or 20% discount that you get at Gabe's Patreon level for the Goslings, it would cut into their cost, quote unquote, of the shirt.
Mm.
We maybe have a 3 to 5% profit margin on that stuff because it's also inherently expensive. You kind of feel guilty charging any more money. So the trick was we had to up the price of the shirts just to justify the 20% discount, which still would be cheaper than if you had bought it by without the discount. But you're basically getting the shirt at cost at that point.
Yep.
So, and it's still kind of expensive. We want to find.
Man, yeah. I want to see what those costs are versus Printiful, which is the one that I use. to see if it's a better, which I think it is. But even then, I told them, I was like, man, just up the price of the T-shirts, bro. It ain't about the money; it's about the support and the fact that aliens are demons you can shoot. So before
that's a message that needs to be spread.
It's in 4th Corinthians.
Yeah,
it's in 2nd Genesis.
No, wait, what's the Corinthians reference? I'm trying to remember.
What's that?
What's the Corinthians reference?
I was saying 4th Corinthians, you know, because
the
funny thing is, actually, when I say 3rd Corinthians, people that are theologically astute will be like, well, technically there is a 3rd Corinthians.
There is
because
a 3rd Corinthians.
He references it, we just don't have it
as well.
Yeah, indeed, there possibly might be, or there was, but we don't have it. So anyway, but let us get on to the subjects of the night. Yes, we're waiting for Tricky to show up, and then it's a party. But I brought up that the aliens demons T-shirt because I will have that T-shirt before I do a live stream at the Goslings, like with the Goslings live in person again. I will have that T-shirt. It will be mine. Oh yes, it will be mine.
Oh yes.
So I'm gonna pull up this video. We're gonna start with this one. Let me make sure I'm on track. So we're gonna try to take 15 minutes per subject. You know, may not be as long, maybe longer. But I want to crack off with this one. It was just dropped today, and I think I was actually talking to you, Jonathan, when it dropped. And it was, because I told you, I was like, dude, Kirk Franklin again? I was like, man, I'm going to have to do a live stream. And that's what started the whole conversation of like, it's been a month. We need to do this again. And then one of my best friends, Jarvis Whitted, he texted it to me. He's like, dude, not again. And I was like, man, we're going to do a live stream. So let me text Jarvis right now, the live stream. Beautiful. Okay, so let's see what Gospel Chops. This is a 7-minute video. I'm going to let the whole thing play, and the three of us can kind of react in the chat, and then we'll discuss. So I'm going to throw this up here in a separate window. It's probably going to start with an ad. Of course, it's going to start with an ad. Let me do a side-by-side.
Buy Cialis today.
Yeah. Yes. Drugs. Okay. You need your drugs.
Drugs.
You need your drugs because drugs are good. Okay. Oh, that's not it. It's. Oh. Okay. Hold up. I'm trying to see. Well, let me see if I can do it. How do I have this thing set up? So the problem is I need a third monitor. Y'all, we got to get By Faith done. We've got to get By Faith Studio done because this room can literally not handle any more equipment. I mean, it's busting. It's pretty insane. So let's see.
By Faith Studio, I like that. I'm on board.
Yeah. It's this. Okay. Oh my goodness. Sorry, y'all. Apologies for the technical realities. Virtual insanity. Here we go. That's about as good as it's gonna get. Oh, you're kidding. It will not do like a full screen mode, so we're just gonna have to settle with this. Okay, this works. We'll do screen right.
Kind of on a anyways, you know, we're on a vaporwave prawn journey.
I needed a tripod.
Okay, let's see. Skip the ad. Here we go.
About what the Christian community thinks of me, I could care less. About what the Christian community thinks of me, I could care less. About what the Christian community thinks.
I'm sorry, I have to correct him. Couldn't care. You couldn't care less. You couldn't care less. I could see it, and Jonathan was just like, grammar. Okay, promise I'm not going to stop it again. And the volume is super low.
Of me, I could care less.
What's up, y'all? Gerald here, creator of Gospel Chops and your host for this YouTube channel, back with another video. Now, I'm sorry to say, it saddens me to say that I believe we are watching the career demise of Kirk Franklin. We've watched this man come out on stage from the very beginning telling this story that we don't know if it's real or not, about being an orphan and adopted by a little old lady who taught him to play piano and sing gospel songs, and this is the reason why I sing. So later coming out and admitted that he was addicted to pornography, which affected his marriage, and we've seen the production and quality of his music go from worshipful to downright commercial and having nothing to do with God. In a recent interview where he gave an excuse for the demonic Grammys, he wouldn't even mention Jesus in a video because he's caught up in an industry that takes the best of us and chews us up and spits us out and sends us back home if we're lucky and we don't lose our life in the midst of the game. I recently came across this promo video of a new show that Kirk Franklin is working on TV One called The One, where he and his wife are working with singles, not in a singles ministry context, but in a The Bachelor or Bachelorette type of context. And that's fine. If you want to be an entertainer, go full bore and be an entertainer. Give your life to Satan, sell your soul to the devil, but don't straddle the fence, Mr. Franklin. Don't be a lukewarm Christian trying to make music that says one thing and trying to get the Hollywood bag on the other hand that says a whole nother thing about who you are and what you represent. This is ratchet television. And he says, well, he's teaching how to have a healthy and thriving relationship. You know how to have a healthy and thriving relationship, Mr. Franklin? Keep your relationship off of TV. Keep your relationship off of social media. Keep your relationship out of the entertainment game.
Him and now the unofficial matchmakers, and now we're switching up the game, bringing our matchmaking expertise to the TV screen.
Get naked on the first date.
We will share our wisdom when it comes to getting and maintaining a healthy, thriving relationship.
It's time to find the one.
Do you want to come to the mansion? Me and my girl Tammy, we're going to switch up the game a bit right here. We're going to take an eligible bachelor and eligible bachelorette.
They both have struggled to find that special someone.
We're going to make them live together as they both go on a mission to seek and find love. We bring the best singles Atlanta has to offer for dates,
Lord have mercy,
activities, to see if we can help Brendan actually find the one.
Let's get the party started.
All right now.
I like that. Y'all working hard. Working for love.
I know you so nice and so sweet, but I want to grab them ass cheeks.
We're all just as emotionally invested, and this ain't easy for us
Right.
to
You better from Ashley? Everybody? No?
Ashley's disappearance is very confusing and mind-boggling to us all.
She's jealous. I definitely think Ashley has feelings for Prince.
You do me honor.
I got a bullet on my back.
You don't think I got one on mine?
It's a dating experience unlike any other, with shocking twists
I just want you to be aware that it's game out here.
that no one saw coming.
What the hell was that? Let's get it.
I'm it. I'm the it.
I am the one. I am the one.
Yeah, I'm the one.
And without further ado,
The person that I'm going to choose to be the one.
This is one of the hardest decisions I've ever made in my life. I am choosing.
Now, Kirk Franklin is clearly unrepentant, and he's going for the bag. Can't nothing stop him at this point. The man has turned himself over to a reprobate mind. He's disconnected himself from his roots in the church and the gospel, and he going for it, y'all. It's full speed ahead to get that bag, because he's had a taste of that lifestyle. And it's hard. Once Hollywood introduces that money to you, it's hard not to fall in love with it. And Hollywood knows that. That's why they reel you in the way they do. They've been doing this for decades. And many people stronger than you and I have fallen victim to this. And it seems like our brother Kirk Franklin is the next in line. I feel sorry for the brother, but I continue to pray for him because I know that God is able. And even in his prior addictions and what appears to be a current addiction to the lifestyle, to the money, I know that God can see him through it. God can bring him out. God can restore Kirk Franklin. Even after all this foolishness, God can bring him back. And he would be an even greater witness than he was before. You know why? Because we would have watched him from the very beginning. We would have saw his ascension. We would have saw his decline. And we would see God restore him through his everlasting grace. If you agree with me, let me know in the comments what you think about Kirk Franklin and his wife, his boo, putting together a TV show as matchmakers that looks like ratchet television. Ain't nothing Christian about this. Let me know what you think. And like the video. Subscribe to the channel and share the video so we can get more people involved in the conversation, y'all. And like I always say, always remember and never forget, without the gospel,
It's just chops.
Until next time. Peace.
Okay. Wow. Wowie, wow, wow, wow. Wow, wow, wow. Okay,
Wow.
who wants to go first? Good.
AG1 is so much more than a greens powder. In one single
I
scoop.
told you to stop playing. Goodness gracious. Yeah, who wants to go first? I'm not going to go first.
I don't know, man. Like, I'm old enough to remember, like, GP, Are You With Me? And Stomp, you know? Like, those songs were bops. And, like, people would go nuts when you played those in church. Like, early Kirk Franklin days. I've been off the Kirk Franklin team for a while, though. I think it was whenever Smile came out. And he was in that music video in, like, a full face of makeup, looking all effeminate. I'm like, dog, what are you doing?
I remember the little bit of scandal over the makeup.
it was weird. It was weird. I don't know when his downward trajectory started, but that's when I noticed it.
Probably,
and certainly it's
when
ramped up.
he did his song where he had Bono and Christina Aguilera, and he started, the world was, the world was recognizing and wanted to work with him, and rather than pull them this way, they
pulled him.
He allowed himself to be pulled. I think that was the album before he had his first fall, and then Rebirth happened, and he came out, acknowledging all his, what do they call it? Corn. You have to. They say corn.
Yeah, it's corn addiction.
It's corn. Yes.
It really.
Which I want everybody in the
really
comments.
Into the elote.
Yeah, I want everybody in the comments. Let's have a little bit of fun. Let's have a little bit of levity, because laughter is the best medicine. Y'all let us know, what is the next Kirk Franklin album going to be called? So I'm calling it the Rebirth, because he's acting like a
Rebirth.
So
Rebirth 2.
Yeah, Rebirth. So
Rebirth. Oh no, I see what you did there.
Is Kirk the rebirth of Karen?
Yeah, he has definitely had one foot in the world and one foot in the gospel music church world at the same time for a long time. And now he's both feet in the other way. I don't know what kind of spiritual leadership he's under, if he even has a pastor. But at this point, if you're overseeing this man's, spiritual life, I feel like we're at a Paul in Corinthians moment where it's like, man, it might be better if we just hand you over to Satan for the destruction of your flesh, that your soul might yet be saved.
I think we as believers need to learn how to do that. Because we seem completely incapable of just letting folks go. They had no problem with that in the 80s. Because let me tell you, they gave Amy Grant and Sandy Patty a hard boot when they got their divorces. Hard boot, man. I mean, it literally, if Amy Grant had not had the crossover, her career would have been over. Sandy Patty really never recovered career-wise. Yeah. But now we're just to now I'm going to hand it over to Jonathan. He's going to have to try to channel that. Don't make it a huge battle axe. Make it like a battle hammer, not a war hammer.
I am the weapon.
I'm so surprised people in the comments don't know who Kirk Franklin is. Who are these people where have you guys been? What have you been listening to in church music?
Well, I mean, and that's the thing, like, I'm so disconnected from this whole world. You had to explain to me who Kirk Franklin was when we were talking earlier today. But I'm also like totally disconnected from normie TV, like just TV or like normie. And I don't know. I'm so disconnected from all of it. I look at that and I just go, yeah, that looks like an equation that makes sense. Yeah. Of course, you're in Atlanta. You have a ton of money. Apparently you've already kind of sold out. Why wouldn't you have a TV show? Why? Of course. Now, I don't know. It doesn't sound like it from listening to you guys talk about his digression, but I was going to say, like, is it possible? I can't believe I'm about to do this because I am the Warhammer in human form.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. But, like, yeah. Snake! Is it possible that, like, maybe this will be like sort of a Christian TV show and we just don't know it yet because we're just looking at the trailer? Or is that giving Kirk Franklin too much credit?
Yeah, I would say from the partial nudity, the 5 or 6 shots of women's rear ends.
There were some booty shots.
There was
I'm not
a few.
a butt guy, but I know booty shots when I see them.
Well,
I despise rap culture. Like I hate rap culture. So like I am like on multiple levels divorced from this world. But you know, yeah.
Here, yeah, I don't think this is a bait and switch situation where it's
No.
like, you know, we have that trailer and then the content of the show itself is actually going to be a lot more Christian, a lot more positive. And I say that because of the Instagram live he did after the satanic Grammys. I don't know if Gabriel, you saw this.
Oh,
But
I know all about it.
you know, okay. So
Ian,
I watched it. I was watching it live
Yeah.
because I thought he was
I covered it. I covered it shortly after it happened a few months back.
I'm sure you did. But just to recap, not to belabor the point, but
No.
he had this whole clickbait title about he was going to expose the Grammys and all this stuff that had went on. This was like a day or two after the whole Sam Smith just, you know, demon gay fest thing that was going on there. And he started talking, and he was just talking in circles. And then the more he started to clarify his points, it's like he was talking about artists basically that weren't featured. Like that was the axe he was grinding, was that there were a lot of talented artists that weren't getting their due at the Grammys. And when someone in the comments asked about the Sam Smith satanic stuff, he was just like, I'm not here about that. I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, he was upset that gospel music never gets recognized at those award shows. I'm like, well, they're doing satanic and witchcraft rituals.
Right. Yeah.
Why ain't they call us, man?
Yeah.
Are you serious? I mean, honestly, at this point, I don't even know if believers should be going to this type of stuff. Because I'll tell you, I mean, if I was there, I'd either have to run out or start just like shouting, just shouting, repent, or I might just the Lord might light me on fire. That was really disappointed. But he nailed it, man. He in that first part, and I tell you, man, I'm gonna have to reach out to Gerald and see if I can get an interview with him, because he pulled no punches, man. he pulled no punches. He's like, Kirk is about that bag, and Kirk is getting that bag. Which, for those of you that don't understand the vernacular, the bag is money, the money bag. That's what he's going after, and it's very sad. It's incredibly sad, because I was talking about him just this past Saturday, driving home with my best friend Charvis. That first album of his, second album, Kirk Franklin, What You Looking For? Kirk Franklin and the Family, What You Looking For? It's incredibly anointed. Incredibly. So I tell you what, man, but for the grace of God, there go we. There go I, for sure. But I'm telling you, that's...
Amen.
Well, that's why I'm praying to do something different with the music and the musicians that I'm working with. Actually, I'm going to text one of them right now. It's Kirsten from Zoetic. I've been having conversations and trying to connect with younger Christian artists to be like, look, you don't want to chase after this, because this is what we were the live stream I did last week with talking about Ty Tribbett. What he was talking about, that whole, working with the world, and the world wants you to do certain things. And he's had to hang up on people because they're like, well, man, hey, we'll do this and we'll fund this, but you got to do X, Y, Z. And he's literally just had to go click. And he struggled because he wants to minister and he wants to be true to the word, but he wants to work in the industry. And it's becoming an untenable relationship. And unfortunately, most believers aren't afraid to just step away and become completely independent. But they're gonna have to.
Well, you almost have to go like underground with it, with your message, like in a way, like this is not the greatest of examples, but Dream Theater, or King's X, I mean, that's almost like the only way that you can survive, it seems like.
Or most Southern gospel groups are not with a label.
Oh, really?
Most Southern gospel groups, no, man. I mean, they just go to churches on their own. The Southern gospel lives in its own little world, and they do fine. They do absolutely fine. My mother-in-law goes to Southern Gospel concerts, and she's gone to Southern Gospel cruises, and those of us outside the Southern Gospel world don't know about that. But man, they're making records. They're fine.
Yeah, you know, that's true. When I think about Dad's career, when he moved to Nashville, the early years he worked for Benson. He was on retainer as their in-house producer, which is where he met Mom. And she was like, I think she was a secretary or an underwriter. She worked in the office, and he just bugged her until, you know, she eventually said yes. It was really adorable. You know, nowadays you go to jail for that, but like back then it was cute. But it wasn't long before he was independent, you know, and I think he would do like partnerships or choral books with like Prism, you know, or, you know, he would work with like Gaither, you know, but yeah, I guess so. Yeah, Southern Gospel really does operate as its own little entity. I never thought about that, but yeah,
there's several genres like that. That smooth jazz mostly is independent now. Straight ahead jazz has been independent for a long time. It's largely Southern Gospel, and there's another one. A quartet, black gospel quartet music, which is a micro niche in black gospel, but that's almost entirely independent. And it's very much like Southern Gospel. They have their own circuits, they have their own churches, they have their own conferences, conventions, concerts. And
that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, there was a bass player that we worked together for years, and he was in a quartet gospel group. And dude, some of the stuff they did was amazing, absolutely amazing. And I was always asking him, like, why in the world? Why is this not more prevalent? And it's because these mega labels, these mega corporations have taken over. They've bought out all the major gospel and Christian labels and their radio stations, and they don't want anything authentic. They don't want anything that's got heart in it. They want the message. That's what they want. They want heartless, you know. What is it? What is the Brad? What is the name of the guy from Roadhouse? Brad. Help me out, Jonathan. Actually, Ian might know. Remember the Roadhouse movie with Patrick Swayze? Yeah, Brad.
Yeah.
Brad Wesley.
Brad Wesley.
He's like,
I was just about to.
Can you turn that crap off? I can't listen to that garbage. It's got no heart. Okay, let's. I could go on and on that for forever, but let's hit this next subject. So let's talk about this UFO thing. This what was the guy's name? Greg Bush. Yeah, Grush. I think that's how you say it. David Grush. So did you guys see about this?
I heard about
which one is this? Because we've been getting UFO stuff in the news for like the last 3 months. So where are we at now?
Oh, let me hit the comments real quick. So Miss Janet said, I know who Kirk Franklin is. I'm an oldie but goodie. Yeah, Miss Janet knows where it's up. Miss Janet is the one that told me about Steve Reese, the calming harp. I chose to drop him way back. It's called discernment. Woo! Hold up. Let's see. What'd she get for that?
I got a funny story about how that applies to the writing.
What's that?
I said I got a funny story about how that applies to the writing world, by the way, with novels, with the Heavenly Realms novels, but we can do that later.
What does discernment?
No, the whole homogenization, the message, kind of that whole thing. I once had an email exchange with Jerry Jenkins. So
explain to us who Jerry Jenkins is.
Jerry Jenkins is the guy who co-wrote the Left Behind series.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So it's him and Tim LaHaye.
Yeah. Okay.
So Ernie Haas passed on his email after Dad died, and I emailed him, and we got to talking, and we had a couple of exchanges where he dispensed his advice and wisdom, all of which was kind of good. I mean, I can't really argue with any of it. He had some really good pointers, and then he obviously had some advice that was very much the kind of advice you would take if you were looking to reach the broadest audience at the expense of your art, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Less chords, repeatable lyrics, more woes.
Right. I mean, it's Jerry Jenkins. It's the Left Behind guy, you know? I mean, next to he sold almost as many books about Christianity as King James, you know? So you can't argue with the results, but you know, when he's giving advice that is clearly like to the detriment of the artistic integrity for the sake of mediocrity, because mediocrity sells, you know? And again, if that were my objective, and in a way that's not like totally a bad objective to have, because you want to reach the broadest audience. But yeah, there is a bit of that, you know, where like the really successful top tier guys, you know, for the most part, they have played the game, and I think they've kind of become smell blind to the game, so they know like how to dispense the advice that worked for them to help them game the system to get, you know. That's kind of why I like Stephen Pressfield so much, because he doesn't really do that at all, you know. He's like, no, man, you got a thing inside of you that you need to write, and it's weird. Do it.
Well, and that's, you know, what you were saying right there just reminded me of Amadeus, where in his day, Salieri was actually more popular.
Mm-hmm.
But whose music? Who did they make the movie about?
Right. Yeah.
You know, you don't pick up an instrument. You don't, you know, and they're like, we can't wait to start teaching you Antonio Salieri. It's we can't wait to teach you Bach and Mozart and Beethoven. So, but and unfortunately, this generation, this day and age, we can't think past our nose. We want the money today, and we don't care about, which is why everything stinks. There's a couple other comments I wanted to mention real quick. Somebody mentioned Gaither. Cactus said half of the denomination he left preached against Gaither, and the other half listened to him. That is the modern church in a nutshell, right there. He's a heretic. No, you're a heretic. You're a towel.
You're a towel. Splitter.
Oh, if y'all don't get that reference, I'm just sorry for you. I can't. I don't know what to do. Okay, so we have this thing that happened last week. This former U.S. intelligence official, and Matt Walsh did a whole breakdown of who this guy was. He's a legit dude. What's that?
I said, get the demons out.
Yeah, I'm allergic to Gaither. I can't even utter his name. It's just I'm allergic. No, I'm kidding.
You talk about aliens, and all of a sudden you're sneezing a whole lot. You gotta bless you to get the demons out. So,
yeah, that's right. Good Gesundheit. So anyway, this guy basically comes out. Like I said, he's a legit government guy. I'm not going to read this whole article, but it's been in the Vox, it's been in Guardian, it's been in several reputable or as reputable as online news can be these days. I mean, do you trust any of it? But when they all agree, it's either a complete fabrication or it's somewhat true. So, but this guy basically came out and said, yeah, we have vehicles that are not man-made. They're not some high-tech spy tech. And I want to grab this snippet of the interview that I had pulled up. Yep, here it is, ready to go. Let's pull that over there. Let's get you guys over here. So I'll put a mask on, Cactus. You're such an anus. Oh, I'm so sorry, Miss Karen. I didn't introduce everybody.
6 feet behind your camera.
Yeah, we're doing like 600 miles for at least one of us, so I think we're doing pretty good. I got to get.
Well, still put your face diaper on.
Yeah.
Yeah. No one cared about who I was until I put on the mask.
Wait! I have him. Oh, hold up.
Do you feel in charge? Let the games begin.
Strawberries. That is so epic. Anyway, so I forgot to introduce. Hey, Heather, What's up? I'm so glad you're here, dude. This is right up Miss Heather's alley. Oh, yes, Karen. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm still working on the lower thirds, and this was a very last-minute stream. So Miss Karen is new to the channel. She came on, I think, for the Paul Wilbur interview, and that's how she found me. So
I watched that interview, by the way. That was really good.
Man, we didn't get through half of the questions. I asked him one question, and we just so I got to text him. I was supposed to text him yesterday, and I was sick. Okay, but let me introduce. So Ian is Ian Brown. He has a Instagram, and you're starting your podcast about
first episode is live right now, available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and just about anywhere.
Put the link
podcasts.
Put the link on YouTube, and then I will copy it and post it so that everybody gets it. So and I'll post his Instagram. But Ian is a Rhema Bible College graduate, and he currently works at Rhema Bible College. So he loves the Lord, and he's hip enough to hang out with these old fogies up here with gray in their face. He can relate to us on our level, and he's young, so he obviously can relate to you saw the Steve Reeves interview. Gotcha. Beautiful. And then Jonathan Goss is my brother from another mother. His channel is The Goslings, which he co-hosts with his brother Nick, where they talk about stuff like we're about to talk about now. They talk about Nephilim, giants, strange supernatural things. Basically, the things that most churches, I would say 90+% of churches, are kind of afraid to talk about. If you go and ask your pastor, he's gonna do the Homer Simpson into the bushes.
Mm-hmm.
You know. I actually said I need to find this meme I sent to one of my friends, Brandon Herndon, who I was talking to you today about Jonathan. I sent him this amazing meme about Nephilim. It's fantastic. So yes, Jonathan Goss, the son of Larry Goss, the amazing Christian orchestrator and music producer. And he's also an accomplished writer. He has a series of books called The Heavenly Realms about the war of our universe and time from the angelic point of view. I will be purchasing those books this year and reading them, Lord, hopefully before the year is out, Lord willing.
I will too.
There's 6 books, and you're writing the 7th, or are you all done?
They've all been done for 10, 13 years now. I'm just now getting them published. So published Empyrean Falling, which was book 1 in 2019, probably about a year after Mom died. And then I've averaged like maybe 2 or 3 a year. They're all finished. The whole 7-novel series is done. Books 1 through 6 are out on Amazon. You can get them in paperback, ebook, or audiobook. And we had an amazing narrator who sounds like Alan Rickman, sounds like Snape, who narrated them. And he is, yeah, dude, his name's Adam Burrell. He's the son of an Anglican priest. He lives in Bury St. Edmunds, England. Husband, father. We've had him on the show 2 or 3 times at least. Adam is a gem. We call him the Lion of Bury St. Edmunds. He's awesome. So he's a real sweetheart.
Is he the one that his father's was an exorcist in the Anglican church?
Yeah, his father was tapped to be a member of the Exorcist team. He's told some. Before.
Yeah, he did tell some amazing stories in the one of the interviews that I've seen with y'all. Put that. So Ian, put all your stuff in the comments. Jonathan, do the same. Let's play this short clip from the Matt Wall show of this U.S. intelligence guy. That this is a little disconcerting. So get prayed up real quick, y'all.
Right. If you're telling us the truth, everyone. The entire American public has been lied to for decades.
Yeah, there's a sophisticated disinformation campaign targeting the U.S. populace, which is extremely unethical and immoral.
You are saying to the human race, for the first time, an official intelligence representative at a high level from the U.S. government is saying publicly, we are not alone.
We're definitely not alone. Absolutely, the data points empirically that we're not alone, yeah.
Do we have bodies? Do we have species of
Well,
non-human?
naturally, when you recover something that's either landed or crashed, sometimes you encounter dead pilots. And believe it or not, as fantastical as that sounds, it's true.
So he's saying that we not only have
which shouldn't surprise. When I saw this, I was much like Matt Walsh, and I think it's amazing that some of the folks in the Daily Wire are just still like. Well, actually, I'm not surprised that they're still just it's a bunch of hooey, because once the government starts saying we've been lying about everything, then I'm like, if the government came out today or tomorrow at 8 a.m. and said the sky is blue, I would start questioning it.
Yeah. That's why a lot of people become flat earthers. Honestly, it's not that we believe the earth is flat. It's just we know NASA is full of it and we don't buy it.
Well, yeah, when you find out that every image is computer generated, when it's like they copy and pasted all these clouds all over the earth, and it's like, they were just being lazy with Photoshop, and they're using filters, and they're going, and there's people that have gone to the Badlands in Arizona, and they're like, hey guys, those pictures of Mars? Click. It's out here in the Southwest. You're just like, yeah, I don't believe anything anymore. I just don't believe anything. Ms. Karen, Matt Walsh is one of the Daily Wire people. So the Daily Wire, Ben Shapiro, Jeremy Boring, Michael Knowles. So he's one of them. He was the one that did the film What is a Woman that caused Elon Musk to fire some people. I was actually going to do about that, but it was basically like, well, it's going to be like 5 minutes long. It's like, well, they were trying to block Matt Walsh, and Elon Musk wanted everybody to see this film, and he fired people. He just went in there with an axe and just made heads roll. It was glorious.
Yeah,
because they were fired before the film was over. It was already popping off on Twitter that he had fired people.
Yeah,
that's
high level people too. Like the head of trust and safety at Twitter, it's gone.
Yeah.
So anyway, but for those that have, if you're unfamiliar with this topic, you're a Christian and you want to know the biblical view of UFOs, aliens, giants, Nephilim, I strongly recommend you go and check out Chuck Missler, Return of the Nephilim. That is a great place because he walks you through the history. He walks you through the facts. He does not sensationalize anything. To me, actually, he kind of does the opposite. And then the back half of it is all, how is this tie into Scripture? But he goes through, some of this stuff has been fake. Some of this stuff has been messed around. But even going back to Roswell, they've been lying about it. Where, I mean, it would take me to go through all of it, but it's pretty incredible that how they've been trying to keep this under wraps for 80 years now, because Roswell was in the late 1940s, 47, I believe.
47, yeah.
So what are y'all's? Yes, Miss Karen, you are absolutely correct. These Jacques Vallée, and I can never remember the other guy's name.
Bob Lazar.
No, not Bob Lazar. There were two researchers, and Chuck Missler talks about this, but I've actually gone to check what Chuck said. Check what Chuck said. Let's try to say that 20 times fast.
Solid move.
Yeah. But I wanted to see if this was legit, and it was legit. This was their quote after they set out to debunk the UFO stuff. They were like, "This is a bunch of hooey. It's a bunch of garbage. People are they're just seeing things." It was like War in the Worlds with Orson Welles. There was a radio broadcast freaked everybody out, and now they're seeing aliens in their cereal. After I can't remember if it was 6 years or 10 years, but after many years of research, their conclusion was this, and these were two. One atheist, one agnostic. These are demonic. Their exact words. Exact words. They said these are hyperdimensional demonic beings. They always deceive. They always come. They said they always lie. They always lie. And that was kind of crazy. That was kind of crazy. But there's piles of evidence. Yeah, there's the fakes. Yeah, there's the crazies. But when you get through all that, there's too much stuff that's been substantiated for people to just go be like, you can't throw your hands up at some of this stuff. And now you have the government coming out and saying it's legit. And that's what has us asking questions. That's why we're here to discuss. So,
so the question is, like, have they been suppressing the existence of extraterrestrial life and aliens and contact with these beings since 1947, maybe before, who knows, and now is just becoming so prevalent. There are too many cracks in the armor and the truth is just forcing its way out. Or are they is this part of a misinformation campaign? Are they throwing out a little bit of the truth mixed with misinformation to distract us from other things going on in the world?
I think Heather said this. She said it makes a great point. If the government confesses to a lie, it only means the actual thing they were hiding is fully in place.
Yeah.
Which what the bell that Ellie Marzulli has been ringing for, I think, close to over 5 years, if not close to 10 years, is now. This is his conjecture, and he will openly say, "This is my conjecture. This is where I see the evidence leading." Doesn't mean I'm right. Chuck Missler basically said the same thing, but he believes the Great Deception will be these things coming out and fully showing themselves, and them saying, basically confirming where modern science has taken us to, which is panspermia.
Mm-hmm.
We are your creators. All these ancient legends, like ancient aliens, we're the ones that put you here. We're the ones that seeded you here. We're your progenitors. Jesus was one of us. Muhammad was on. We've been trying to send you our messengers for your entire existence, and now we're here to usher in peace.
Yeah, it's literally the plot of Prometheus.
Bingo.
The movie was terrible.
It was.
The first half was pretty cool, and then the ending was.
Oh yeah.
You guys are the dumbest scientists ever.
It started promising, and then she gave herself a C-section, and then was like climbing a mountain 5 minutes afterward, and I was just like, what is going on? Anyway, sorry, I don't mean to derail the conversation here.
Oh, no, not at all. I've seen that cactus about the independent government contractors signing waivers that they cannot say the name of Jesus, those that work in the deep underground military bases.
Whoa.
I have heard that as well.
Wow.
Yeah. Now I won't say it's unsubstantiated, but those are secondhand accounts. I don't know if I've personally ever heard a firsthand account. I know not Chuck Missler, L.A. Marzulli has had people on that know people that work in some of those bases. But once again, it's in a court, they'd be like, well, it's kind of hearsay, because you're not getting it straight from the source, you're getting it secondhand. No, Cactus, I'm with you. Did I see America's Got Talent with Simon Cowell singing last June? What Karen, you're gonna have to. That sounds like it's out of left field. Does that have to do with aliens or something? Did aliens were a part of the performance, or was that just a random question? You're gonna have to. I need a little bit more context with that. Jonathan, what's your thoughts on that? This UFO whistleblower thing before we move on to the next subject.
Well, with not being allowed to say the name of Jesus in the dumbs around the ETs, I've heard that before, and there's, to use churchese, there's confirmation there with what Vicky Joy Anderson has said about demonic possession, sleep paralysis, and using Jesus's name to repel the shadow people, and how that crossovers with alien abduction. So like there's your bellwether right there. Like that should be enough for any Christian, or really any person who potentially believes in anything, to be like, okay, like if you could verifiably tell Joe Rogan that would make Joe Rogan go, oh, that's weird. Really? Like that gives anybody with a brain and critical thinking pause.
Well, and Chuck Missler talked about that 20 years ago. He talked about people saying the name of Jesus and it's stopping these episodes. And then people say, well, people aren't getting abducted. They're just having nightmares. And the top psychologist of Harvard, once again, he set out to debunk this. And after interviewing 300 plus patients, he basically went to one of their big psychiatrist conferences and was like, yeah, I've got the evidence. If this isn't what's happening, I don't know what is happening, because we have people with master's degrees, bachelor's degrees, people with stable families, no history of mental health issues, talking about having these abduction episodes.
Yeah.
So there's too much evidence for us to just discard it or just dismiss it.
Yeah. Well, and as far as disclosure goes, I would say what has changed about the time we're living in now versus the past, 70 years, 80 years, I guess, at this point. The two things that I can look at is, the doomsday clock ticking of World War III, which for the first time since probably since the Cold War, but really what was the thing that JFK? Oh my gosh, dude, they made a movie about it. I keep wanting to say the Bay of Pigs. It's not the Bay of Pigs. What was the big event that
Cuban Missile Crisis?
Yes, the Cuban Missile Crisis. Thank you. I don't know. I am my father, dude. Like, I don't know. You want to go see that new Cuba Downing Jr. movie? So okay, there's the World War III angle, but then again, we've been like close to that a couple times in the past 80 years. The only other thing I can think of that has maybe been an X factor that's new is AI. And I don't know if AI is like controlling them, being controlled by them, or is something totally separate. We actually talked to Micah Turnbow about this in our last interview. It's not going to air for a couple weeks, but mild spoiler, he talked about how like the fallen principalities are going to go to war with the man-made gods, and the man-made gods are AI. And I had never thought, but
like American Gods by Neil Gaiman.
Neil Gaiman.
Neil Gaiman. Do you think that in the same manner that the church gives body to the spirit of Jesus on the earth, could AI be giving body to malevolent demonic spirits?
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, because they have to have somewhat of a tangible form.
They seek embodiment.
Yeah. So if they're transdimensional, possibly, if they're, interdimensional beings, or if they are like corporeal, physical beings with either hypertech or some sort of interdimensional technology that allows their craft to operate the way they do, whatever it is, they're not our friends and they're not good. Like whether they're AI hyperconstructs or whether they're like an oikotarian, like Gary Wayne talks about for demons.
Yeah.
Or whether they are like Nephilim constructs from Antarctica, like whatever it is, they're not okay. And, and I'm just personally grateful for something to shoot. So,
yeah. Yeah, it's I tell you, it's just something we need to be aware of. And when the world is, and here's how you know, or here, to me, it's becoming the litmus test. Anything that is not broadcast wide, that is suppressed by the algorithms, should be something that we should be, maybe I need to look at that, because this story, when it broke last week, Matt Walsh was, I think, the only Matt Walsh, and it was funny. I saw Matt Walsh actually broke it first, and I texted the Goslings, I texted Rudy Landa, and somebody else, and I was like, L.A. Marzulli's gonna be like, he's gonna be on this, and dude, within 2 hours he had a video up. Within 2 hours.
Wow.
And that was
impressive.
it. It was Matt Walsh, L.A. Marzulli, and that was it. Nobody else heard about it. which I don't know if people are in disbelief, people don't see it, or people just don't care because they'd rather, what about the Trump indictment? Let's, I'm like, aren't possibility of aliens being real and the government lying about aliens, is that a little bit more important than the election next year?
So there are some people I think who probably have that like really pedestrian, like utilitarian approach of like, oh, whatever. If it doesn't bother me, if it doesn't lower gas prices, who cares? But then like, I think there are so many people after the past several years, but past few years especially, who are on both sides, who are so fed up with everything that they are willing to accept their benevolent alien overlords.
Well, that leads me to our next point. I'm going to skip over this one because I think this is a better segue. I should have put these in a different order. Watching Patrick Ben-David discuss the Neuralink, if that is not the best potential I've ever heard for the mark of the beast, I don't know what is.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're talking about something that will be implanted into your body that will enhance your intelligence, possibly give you better health, and put you on a level where, I mean, they were discussing it with business. They discussed it a little bit in the Andrew Tate interview. I don't know how. I mean, imagine if you didn't have to Google with your hands. You had instant access to everything Google has.
Yeah.
So what have you guys heard about Neuralink? Have you, Ian, you heard anything about Neuralink? Because I don't want to be the only one talking about it.
No. I haven't heard a ton. Basically, what you've just said, kind of a chip in the brain, supposed to augment your intelligence and physical capacity for different things. It's supposed to make your life better, so much better. You want this. Trust us.
That's
basically.
Yeah, it's scary that they've moved.
The extent of my knowledge.
Yeah, it's scary that they've moved on already to human trials with it. That's very.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wild.
But it also makes you wonder, what in the world have they been doing in black site labs for the last? I mean, listen, I want everybody. I want you all out there. I want you to consider this and tell me your thoughts in the comments. They cloned a lamb. They cloned a sheep in the 90s. They made a perfect clone of a sheep in the 90s, a genetic clone.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think they just did that and nobody cloned anything else in the last 30 years?
They just stopped. They were like, we did it. We're done.
I mean,
we're done.
We're done. We did it.
I mean,
we proved that we could do it.
Have you seen the Biden earlobes? That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. I mean,
Dude,
is
that
it a
weird
mask?
Neck thing?
Yes. Is it a mask? Is it a clone? I don't know.
For sure.
I mean, you have this technology being portrayed in Mission Impossible movies, which are fantastic. But it's you can't. You're showing this in like 1999, and you're telling me in 2023 it hasn't actually been developed yet.
Well, they were fooling President Bush the first with masks. There was I don't know. Did you see that, Ian? Did you see that the lady that used to work for the CIA in their deception program? Their disguises program. She walked in to meet President George W. And they're sitting there having a conversation, and then she pulled the mask off and flipped him out. Really? And they have it on video. Wow. And they have to turn it off when she takes the mask off so she can't reveal. There's partial of the video, but they have the entire video. And that's how good the masks were in the 90s.
Yeah.
In the 90s. Yeah. And I've seen stuff with people doing stuff at Comic-Con that'll freak you out of how real it looks.
I have a friend who was an Army Ranger back in the late 2000s, maybe early 2010s. And he was also involved in the production of Lone Survivor. And really cool guy. I like this guy a lot. And he got plugged in. He's plugged into a couple worlds. Long story short, he was a bodyguard for Madonna for a little while. and he interviewed with Madonna. And
but it
he
wasn't
said,
Madonna, was it?
What's that?
It wasn't Madonna, was it?
Well, I mean, he said it. You're right. He said it was her, but she just looked like a 60-something-year-old lady. You know, she just looked like your normal, average kind of, wrinkly, saggy 60-something-year-old lady. But then, like, before a show, she would disappear for like an hour and a half, and then come out, and everybody like, she come out looking the way she looks when she's, in a performance. And everybody has like seen, the past few years of what she looks like. And they're all like, oh, she's taking a bunch of drugs, or she's doing a bunch of, filler, whatever, cosmetic stuff. And he said, honestly, man, like, I don't know for sure, but honestly, I just think she, like, the reason why her face looks bigger is because like she's literally either wearing prosthetics or she's like wearing a mask, and like, I mean, probably, because who knows,
Or she's going back there and getting a quick adrenochrome shot.
Yep.
If y'all don't know about that, please don't go down the rabbit hole. That we'll just have to do a whole episode on that.
Yeah, it's real.
Ian,
I'm just saying.
Yeah, Ian, you know about that?
Yeah, I've heard about it from Jim Caviezel, Jesus, actually. So,
well, his latest movie about the child trafficking thing.
Yeah, Sound of Freedom.
Yeah, it like very tangentially sort of toes its waters into that world, I guess.
Yeah, it's subtle, but it's definitely in there if you know what you're looking at.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that you can't. It takes a while to try to explain that to people, and then most people just have instant cognitive dissonance. They're just like, nope, shut my brain off. I don't want to hear anymore. I don't want to believe it.
Well, they poisoned the well because of the whole Pizzagate thing, right? So like you can't, like if you mention that, that's just a crazy conspiracy theory. I mean, for me personally, like, no, that was probably real. And even just on its own merits, like, that's probably 100% real. Every bit of that.
It's plausible. It's completely plausible. If you say it, I don't think it happened, you can't deny that it's possible that it happened.
Right.
Especially when you understand how depraved these people are.
Yeah, and I always go back to two encounters with women that I had. One in 2012, I went on a double date with my oldest brother and his wife, and one of her friends who is single. And I mean, obviously, that would be weird. I'm a writer, and so we went on this double date, and she and I we went to see World War Z, and then we came back and we just like hung out at the house. And she and I stayed up late, and we got to talking, and she told me that like she was a victim of SRA as a child at her church in West Virginia by her parents or elders of the church.
Wow.
So, and this is 2012.
And if you don't know what SRA is, it's satanic ritual abuse.
Yeah.
Some people don't know what that is.
So like people who say that like that's a crazy conspiracy theory and that doesn't happen, and like people are just trying to get like cool points now for talking about it. No, dude, I ran into a chick who like talked about that happening 11 years ago, and when she talked, and like that's when she told me, like it was, no one knew what that was back then, not like in mainstream like we do now, and then a few years later, I was at the H. Clark Distillery in Thompson Station. I got invited to the grand opening, and there was a former Miss America there. And this is 2015. So again, before any of this stuff was like cool to talk about, you couldn't get any cool points for it. And I asked this Miss America, she was like in her maybe mid 30s, so she had been like out of the game for probably a decade. And I asked her like, well, what was your cause du jour? Because I'm thinking like it's going to be like save the whales, or give clean water to the little Ethiopian babies, or just some brain dead bullcrap like that everybody says and does. No, man. She said sex trafficking. It was like I beg your pardon, and she was like, yeah, sex trafficking. And it's like, okay, that's the most fascinating thing anybody could have ever said about like go on. Please go on, ma'am. You know, and she said Nashville was like a major hub for sex trafficking. You know, and again, this is 2015. This is pre-Pizzagate. You know, so I mean, I get that like all the adrenochrome ritualistic SRA kind of like hooded robes and children, you know, and you know, steely knives and all that kind of Hotel California stuff is like maybe too weird for people to believe. But I have in my own life, and I'm a hermit, I've ran into 2 chicks in the past like 20 years who have talked about this sort of thing way before it was cool to talk about. So like for sure that's happened, you know?
Well, and that takes us into our next thing, which is the Jeffrey Epstein list. So this came out. When is this article specifically came out? This came out May 30th. Okay, so this is a little less than 2 weeks. A partial list from, I don't remember if this was his email. It says emails, calendars. I don't know if this was email calendars, flight log, or people that definitely visited. Because the ones that they put in the headline were Chris Rock, Peter Thiel, Richard Branson, which then of course there's Bill Gates and his wife, David Blaine. No surprise there. That's really not a shocker. Let's see.
It's funny that David Blaine is mentioned because David Blaine was the inspiration for this character named Conrad in my second Heavenly Realms book, who is a street magician who gets given real power by the fallen angels, and they try to make him the Antichrist. So that totally makes sense because David Blaine was the inspiration for all of that, and he's always really.
Are you a prophet or are you a PROFIT prophet? Jay.
No, I'm not. Not if you look at the sales. I am definitely not. Sorry to break it to people. You know.
So they had Facebook investor Sean Parker, artist Jeff Koons, JP Morgan, chief executive. I don't know who that is. I tell you, this one was interesting to me. A music industry executive Tommy Mottola. So Jonathan, we're losing you because you're outside your house. So just to let you know.
That is familiar.
Yeah. So Tommy Mottola is the one that he drove his former ex-wife, Mariah Carey. He literally made her crazy. And Michael Jackson said he was the devil. And I believe now this is my personal conjecture, but I believe that he paid to have Michael snuffed because Michael, at the time of his death, owned 49% of Sony Records, who Tommy Mottola is the head of, or was the head of at that time. Okay, that was a little aside. You get that one for free. So let's see, who else did they have on that? I know they had Woody Allen on that list as well.
Yep.
I'm going down. Prince Andrew, of course, and his ex-wife Sarah Ferguson. I wish they just would have compiled the list. They're trying to, like, I don't care about all these things. I just want the names. Sorry, y'all. Most people have put this in like a video form, and I didn't have time to watch a whole video. David Blaine and Chris Rock, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, just a lot of famous people that, they just have a whole different persona on towards the American people that we see. Oh, Chris Caps. Shh. I don't know if Tom Hanks was on the list, Heather. I don't know if that has been confirmed as of yet.
Heard different things about Tom Hanks, but I've never actually seen a list with his name on it.
Not yet.
Doesn't mean it doesn't exist that he wasn't on it. He's been accused. I just haven't seen it.
He's been accused of some pretty horrendous things, and apparently he knows about it, and he gets pretty upset about it. So I don't know if that's, and you could see that both ways. You could see, that as imagine, much like Michael Jackson, who people to this day still think he did all those horrendous things. And if you actually go and read the court stuff, yeah, it was, there's a guy named Razor Fist that does a breakdown of all those trials and things. And imagine never having done any of that stuff and have that hanging over your head your whole life. So that's why with Tom Hanks, I'm like, I don't know, and I don't throw those kind of dispersions towards him, because if he ain't, that's kind of heavy.
I'd be mad too. I'd be mad too if I was in that position and I didn't do these things and I was wrapped up in this conspiracy. It would make me upset,
big time.
But
has he come out and defended himself against it?
Yeah.
Has he? Okay.
Yeah, he literally came out and said, people are saying I've done all these crazy things and whatnot. And he's like, I didn't do anything. And it's, it's really bothering me, because they come up to his family members and they'll, he's a this and that. And they call him all sorts of names. And, what are you going to say? You just on the street and somebody runs up to you and says it's your family member or dear friend is, and if he is, well, but that's the beautiful thing about what's supposed to be how we operate in this country, which is, innocent until proven guilty. And we've completely turned that around to you're guilty. And even if the evidence says you're innocent, you're still guilty.
Mm-hmm. Still guilty.
Like, the police that have been involved in many of these shootings.
Mm-hmm. Or the Me Too movement,
Oh boy, don't even. Yeah, that's a whole other episode right there. Oh, let's see. Well, Tom Hanks, Pastor Michael H. says, well, Tom Hanks was on the boat with Oprah, Bill Gates, Obama, and several others who, you know what? Actually, I'd be interested to see if Tom Hanks was any of those spirit cooking things with Abramovich.
Oh,
and Lady Gaga. That, if he's there, then I will happily throw him under that bus. Happily.
Yeah, dude. It's one thing to be a naive or up-and-coming starlet or rising star and go to one of those things and be like, this is the weirdest thing. This is gross. Like, no, I'm good. And maybe leave early or maybe don't, whatever. And you just kind of like hang out in a corner. But if you're at more than one of those, you're not helping your case in the court of public opinion,
Yeah, that's definitely some brand confusion right there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've covered the Neuralink, we've covered the Kirk Franklin UFO disclosure. I wanted to show you guys this one clip, and we're going to wrap it up with this. It's crazy to think we've done an hour. It went by like 15 minutes.
Wow, yeah, it did.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I feel like we just started.
I really do. I really do as well. I want to play the longer one of this. So we did all these. We did that one. We did that one. Oh, actually, I want to find the longer clip of this by Brother Calvin Robertson, I believe it is. Robinson. Calvin Robinson. There's a speech he did. Yeah, this is 12 minutes long. I might break it up because there's a 5-minute one that, it kind of gets the gist of it, but this was so excellent. And he did this 3 months ago. I've been meaning to do a reaction for this for forever, so I'm very glad I'm doing this with y'all here, because it's if you have not seen this clip, it is going to bless you tremendously. So a little backstory. This is a Anglican, a guy who was just about to be ordained in the Anglican Church, I believe, over there in Great Britain, the King's Church. And I think he's now being denied his pastorship because of this speech, because the Anglican Church in England, which I don't know. This would be a thing that you guys could ask Tim Cohen next interview. They've gone where they're gay affirming.
Well, they're totally woke.
And this guy's did just this 10 minutes talk at one of these debate things that they have at Oxford Union. And this was incredible. I saw this shortly after it came out, and I wanted to jump out of my car and shout. It was so firm, but not hateful, not out of anger.
Yeah.
On the edge of disgust. This is great. So here we go. Y'all, do me a favor, hit the share button right now, because other people, and hit the share or share this directly to one friend that's in the faith that needs some encouragement. Let me tell y'all, we are not alone. This guy's a young black kid over in England, and he knows what's up. He knows what is up.
May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing to you, O Lord. I was going to say thank you for the warm introduction, but I think instead I'll say thank you for the invitation. That's far more charitable. It's a genuine pleasure to speak here this evening. It really is. I'm happy to be back at the Oxford Union. It wasn't too long ago that I was based here myself. And I'm very happy to be part of an organisation that is still standing up for free speech, still standing up for diversity of thought and opinion, going against the approved narrative of academia in the 21st century. So well done to you all for that. Now, I genuinely struggled with this one. I've struggled sleeping this week, actually. I don't get stage frights. I never get nervous when I go on television. I recently debated at the Cambridge Union and the Durham Union, no problem whatsoever. But there's something different about this one. It's been causing me anxiety. So someone kindly sent me Luke chapter 12, verses 11 to 12, saying, "And when they bring you before the synagogues and the rulers and the authorities, do not be anxious about how you should defend yourself and what you should say, for the Holy Spirit will teach you in that very hour what you ought to say." I know there's something a bit ironic about me coming here with a prepared speech after that, but why do I feel anxiety about this? Well, we are up against the authorities. 3 bishops from the established church. That means either I am wrong, and Christians have been teaching incorrectly for the last 2,000 years, and Jews and Christians for the last 4,000 to 6,000 years, or we have church leaders attempting to drag the church into apostasy. Neither way is good. The consequences are severe. This debate is not just happening in this chamber. This debate is happening in real time in the House of Bishops as we speak. There's a growing number of vocal bishops who want to change the church's teaching on marriage. The result being the spiritual neglect of Anglicans up and down this country. Now, I may have trained at the last remaining sound Anglican seminary up the road at St. Stephen's House, but I am a newbie deacon. So perhaps I am wrong on this. Let's consult people wiser than myself, starting with the church fathers. St. Thomas Aquinas, in his Summa Theologica, quite clearly identifies matrimony as being between one man and one woman, beneficial for begetting of children, and for the good of offspring for both educational and developmental purposes, necessary for the perfection of a community and for the worship of God. St. Paul describes marriage as, "Therefore a man leaves his father and his mother and clings to his wife, and they become one flesh," in which he is mirroring the language of Genesis, where God tells man and woman to be fruitful and multiply. Both Aquinas and Paul refer to matrimony as a sacrament, a holy mystery in which one man and one woman are joined together in conjugal union with the potential to be blessed by the grace of God with children, to start a family for the worship of God. People will often argue in this debate, we know more about homosexuality now than we did then. Maybe so. But are we really going to suggest that God knew less then than we know now? For either all of Scripture is God-breathed, or it isn't. Either we believe Christ, or we don't. So let's refer to another source, the Book of Common Prayer, one of the Anglican formularies, an authority of liturgy and catechism in the Anglican Church. The prayer book lists 3 ordained reasons for matrimony. First, it was ordained for the procreation of children, to be brought up in the fear and nature of the Lord, and to praise his holy name. Second, it was ordained for a remedy against sin, and to avoid fornication, that such persons as have not the gift of constancy might marry and keep themselves undefiled members of the Church's body. And thirdly, it was ordained for the mutual society, help and comfort, that one ought to have the other, both in prosperity and adversity. And if we look wider abroad to the Church Catholic, which defines in the Catechism of the Catholic Church, matrimony, the matrimonial convent by which a man and a woman establish between themselves a partnership of the whole life, is by the nature ordered toward the good of the spouses and the procreation and education of offspring. This covenant between baptized persons has been raised by Christ the Lord to the dignity of a sacrament.
About to get good.
This is referred to as marriage in God's plan. So are we looking to alter the catechism of just the Anglican Church or the Catholic Church too? Should they all get with the times? 2,000 years of Christian doctrine cannot be altered at the whim of a few liberal bishops. What is God ordained cannot be adjusted to suit our new liberal progressive views. Marriage is heterosexual and monogamous and should be open to the possibility of children. The Bible backs all of this up. It's very clear throughout on this matter. Whether it's 9 verses or 32,000 verses, marriage is between one man and one woman for the purposes of procreation. Sex outside of marriage is a sin, and that is the same for heterosexuals as it is for homosexuals, although the Bible is quite clear that same-sex relations are abhorrent. And before some smart aleck starts asking me the question of whether I'm wearing mixed fabrics, there is a difference between the moral laws and ceremonial laws. and Christ did come to fulfill the old laws. Both the issues of marriage and homosexuality, however, are still addressed in the New Testament, in Paul's epistles, but also in the Gospels. Jesus does talk of marriage in Mark and Matthew, both in the context of heterosexual union. So my question to the bishops would be, do we not believe in the authority of scriptures anymore? Can we pick and choose which parts of the gospel we adhere to? The church, after all, is Christ's bride, as we heard earlier. Jesus is described as the bridegroom, so that we may know how he relates to us. Two grooms would be pointless. Christ is already in union with the Father and the Holy Spirit. It's us he's inviting in. Two brides is what we're looking at here. The church is attempting to marry itself and to leave Christ out of the picture. We are directly talking about undermining God's plan as he has revealed it to us. We're replacing his authority with our own. If marriage is no longer between one man and one woman, are we open to the idea of polygamy? We disregard the heterosexual aspect, so why not the monogamous aspect too? If love is love, as we keep hearing, who's to say that 3 men loving each other is not more love than 2 men loving each other? Shame, degeneracy. And I'm sure someone in this
shame, degeneracy. I love it. He doesn't give that an ounce. Okay.
But has echoed the words love is love tonight, and this is not about love being love. This is about marriage, the sacrament of holy matrimony. It is directly connected to love, but it's not the definition of love. Too many people utter those words and confuse the meaning of love. Agape, the biblical context of love, is a divine love. It's a sacrificial love. It's not lustful. People often conflate sex with love. It's very disingenuous. We've heard quite a bit of that. But then, of course, atheists often parrot the words, God is love, and we've heard that one tonight too, again, without any understanding. Yes, God is love, but he sets the terms, not us. Another one we've heard plenty of is inclusivity. Should the church be more inclusive? Again, it's a play of words. It's virtue signaling. It's to appear good rather than to be good. The church should absolutely be inclusive. Christ spent time with tax collectors and prostitutes, but it is they who went away changed, not Christ. We are fallen, therefore we are all sinners. The church is open to sinners, of course it is. That's the purpose of the church. But it should not be to encourage people to continue to sin. Our duty as clerics is to help lead people to Christ, to lead them away from sin, not to embrace it, not to affirm it. I know many LGBT people who live lives in Christ. They abstain from sexual gratification to be closer to God, and it's not easy. It really isn't. It's perhaps not fair, but it is right and it is good. And these people are being let down. I've had people crying, saying, I could have got married, but I did what the church taught me was right, and now the church is saying they were wrong all along. I've wasted my life. As Christians, we're called to be in the world, but not of the world. The trap that we're falling into in this debate is looking at the church through the eyes of the world rather than through his kingdom. In the secular world, we already have equality in law. People can enter civil partnerships or even gay marriage outside of the church, and that's their prerogative. However, the faith is inherently discriminatory. God is discriminatory. He sets conditions on us entering his heavenly kingdom. It is not a free-for-all. We must turn away from sin, repent, and follow Christ. And I want to specify, it is the sin that is the problem, not the sinner. Every single person is loved by God, and God forgives all of us of our depravity. But we have to turn away from our sins and turn toward him. And it seems the panel opposite me has forgotten to separate the sin from the sinner. One can denounce sin while still welcoming the sinner. So as I wrap up, my message to the proposing side is, do not lead us astray. Do not lead people astray. Do not be the wolves in sheep's clothing. Do not be the false teachers that the Bible warns us about. Remember your obligation to defend the faith. Stop teaching about diversity, inclusion, and equality, and get back to teaching about redemption and salvation. This is spiritual neglect. Help people by telling them the truth. Be kind to people by supporting them through those struggles and reminding them that Christ suffers with them. And be compassionate by leading them to Christ when the world tries to lead them away from him. The church is imploding, and the faithful masses have stopped turning up on Sundays, and we are seeing the most rapid decline of Christianity in this country that we may have ever seen. Do not accelerate it with heresy. You do not have the authority to bless sin. When I hear the Bishop of London on record saying these new prayers will mean priests can bless same-sex relationships, some of which may be sexual in nature, I hear the devil at work. Bishops are promoting the idea of sacramental sodomy. Let them be anathema. Repent. And to the rest of you, I have no doubt that some of you will consider me a bigot or a transphobe or a homophobe, but I am neither of those things, none of those things. I am simply a follower of Christ, a Christian. And we are naturally countercultural. And if so-called liberals were truly diverse and tolerant, they would embrace us just as they embrace everyone else. And not right now, I'm just wrapping up. And the point has been made, but the growing Christophobic attitude around this public debate and the ugly level of hypocrisy is that we really see people hold Muslims and people of other faiths to the same expectations that they hold Christians to. Who is calling, except my good friend here, for Islam to embrace gay marriage? Who is calling for the Quran to be updated to modern societal norms? It is the same, mind your language, it is the same patronizing attitude of people that treat other faiths, patronize other faiths while being intolerant towards Christians at the same time. It's a shame, but in the words of St. Athanasius of Alexandria, if the world is against the truth, then I am against the world. Thank you very much.
Let that ruminate. That man dropped a building-sized gauntlet. Anathema.
Anathema. Calvin contra mundum.
All right, Ian, go first.
No, that was great.
Yeah, had you not heard that before?
I have not heard that speech before. I've been aware of Calvin Robinson for a while. I first heard of him on Michaela Peterson's podcast, which he was phenomenal there.
That was only like a week ago, though, right?
No. This is months ago. He may have been on like a week ago, but his first appearance was on there. It was around the time where she went public with her conversion to Christian faith. So he was kind of like helping her walk through some of the basics. And I was really impressed with him then, and just my respect for this man has grown tenfold. I think, this is necessary. These are things that need to be said by the church. I think it's wild that in less than 10 years we've gone from the Supreme Court decision was Obergefell, I think, that legalized gay marriage. We've gone from like less than 10 years from that,
and I call it the relabeling of marriage, because they didn't define it, God did, and so they just it's just a fakery. But go ahead.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying like it's taken less than a decade to go from that to, cutting off the musculature from a 12-year-old's forearm to make a penis that won't work.
I mean, it's completely aberrant. It's completely aberrant.
Like what? And we're just fine with it? Like we're just gonna let this happen? All those cranky conservatives from the 80s and 90s are like, it's a slippery slope, and you're like, shut up, you old man. You don't know what you're talking about. They were right.
They were 1,000% right. They were 1,000% right.
It was a slippery slope, and we're sliding all the way down. And we need people like
90-degree
Calvin
angle,
Robinson.
man. We're sliding right down to the Sheol.
We need Calvin Robinson 1,000-fold in the church across denominational lines.
We just all need to pick up and start holding the line. That was actually something I was gonna. Well, we can talk about it without having the video, but we need to do like the Armenian Church did in California.
Yeah,
where they said enough of this.
Yep.
And the entire community. But Jonathan, your
those
thoughts?
Based Armenians going out with the that Middle Eastern flair, like,
yeah, the Turkish fury.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Armenians. That's a joke.
That was good.
No.
That was a good joke.
I'm pro-Armenian. That's the other thing.
I don't want them coming for me, sir.
No.
Yeah.
Dude, first of all, Armenian culture is awesome, and also Armenian gangs, like, you probably should be a friend. Like, they're I dig them. I like them a lot, and it's sad that we are so like cucked and simped that like the Armenians are going to be the ones to have to save us from ourselves. I actually was talking to Mark Chadwick about this earlier today. We talked again for like 2 hours, and Mark has a lot of. We're gonna have him on the show, and he's gonna talk about a lot of these things, that are just like pride is being weaponized. This whole thing is being weaponized, and this is coming from him. He's saying that like this stuff is being weaponized and it's being used, by people who want to destabilize and control. And also like, and Mark is gay. and he worked with my dad for years, even after he got kicked out of the church for being gay. Like he's been a friend of the family for 30 years now, something like that. And he's like, they want to talk about, like, in politics, they want to talk about there being a community. And it's like, dude, I've been in this world my whole life. There isn't a community. Like, first of all, with like some of this stuff, you're talking about 0.8% of the population, 0.5% of the population. And within that 0.5%, they're all fighting each other. Like, they don't even like each other, So it's like the narrative is such a false one. And they clearly cloaked that whole thing in 2008 under Obama's administration, because, like, if you came out against it, no, you weren't just a bigot, but you were also a racist, so they used that as cover. And I don't know, someone should call Andrew Tate, because this guy, somebody's getting converted one way or the other. You put those two in a room.
Well, that's and that's what we were, like we were talking earlier today, Jonathan. It's sad that a guy like Andrew Tate went to Islam because he saw strength, and he said Christians are weak, they're hypocrites, because he saw no clear examples of men of faith that stand firm on the word. I mean, I think he would have seen that if he would have seen a John MacArthur thing or some, or a Lester Sumrall. I had to pick guys from two camps, but I get it, and no, I don't want to cast aspersions at any modern day preachers, but, I'll go ahead and throw one at Brother Osteen's way, because, he catches it all anyway, so he ain't going to be mad at it. But, he's going to look at that guy and be like, this guy was asked straight up about abortion or homosexuality, and his knees buckled. He gave in. He did not just say it's wrong, it's a sin. Whereas John MacArthur on Larry King, he smacked that right back. He's like, it's a sin, and if those that live these lifestyles will not enter the kingdom of heaven. It's right there in the word. And John MacArthur said, it's not my opinion, it's not my thought, it's what the Bible says.
Yeah. What I see happening too much here in Tulsa, where I live, Mike Todd, pastor of Transformation Church, had this viral clip from one of his sermons.
Dude, that's so
talking
bad.
About, like, if I was God, I would have made like another option, like A, B, C, or D. And it's like, I have to be true to my Pentecostal roots and just like say everything's a spirit, right? Spirit of Absalom. Because what did Absalom do? Absalom stood at the gate, and when people were coming to see King David to present him with a problem, Absalom would be like, yeah, just hang out for a second. Tell me what's up. It's like, oh, you got this going on? I'm not the king. If I were the king, I'd totally rule in your favor. I'd be on your side. But I'm not the king. You better go see the king.
Absalom.
And what did Absalom do? Absalom
side.
set up a kingdom for himself eventually. And so this is what I'm seeing. So many preachers, they're trying to toe the line instead of take a stand. And they're just doing what Absalom did. I'm not the king. Like, I feel your pain. I sympathize. If I was God, I would make this okay. But I'm not, and I have to abide by the king standard. And it's like, get out of there. Like, get a backbone.
Yeah. Well, the backbone doesn't put asses in the seats or shekels in the pocket. And I'll be honest with you, the sad thing about what you're facing with this is that it's boring. The reasons behind it are probably pretty boring, because it's the same reason why most churches angle for, they cater to women more than they cater to men, and they cater towards feminizing, is because that's what is going to fill the pews, and the more pews that are filled means more money. It's just, it's sad. It's sad that it's like to me at least, when I look at it, it's that boring. Because I watched, I mean, the church that I went to detonated over that. The pastor snuck away and rewrote the charter and came back with like this cabal and announced it to the rest of the church, and it split the church in two and it destroyed it, you know, because he wanted his 15 minutes of fame for being the first fully inclusive church, you know, in Tennessee. And he didn't discuss it with most of the, you know, elders. He didn't discuss it with the elders in the church. He didn't discuss it from the pulpit. I mean, it's just a decision he made in secret and then hammer fisted it, you know, like Gron. He just battering rammed it right on through, you know. And
I appreciate that reference.
And he like that. Yeah.
That's good.
So, you know, and it had the result that it deserved to have, which is it destroyed the church, you know. And so, but he probably would, you know, had reached the end of his rope as far as what he could provide, and he probably needed to detonate and, you know, have a reset. And he also wanted his 15 minutes of fame, and he ended up being on either like 20 minutes or 20 or 60 minutes or something like that at one point. You know, he got a national interview or a national TV interview out of it. So I think that's the motivation a lot of times too, is they just know, like, it's the same thing Republicans are doing. You know, Republicans will cater to like anybody, any demographic that they think has money, whether it violates their moral mandate or not, you know?
Yeah, well, that's like the thing with the Republican Party. It was Michael Malice always says conservatism is just liberalism driving the speed limit, or progressivism driving the speed limit. And it's,
I love that guy.
yeah, it's like before long you're gonna have Republican lawmakers talking about like common sense transgender surgeries and stuff like that. The line just keeps getting pushed further and further left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Overton window. Yeah, it shifts. I was telling Gabe about that a while back, about how and I was telling Mark this earlier today, and he thought it was hilariously pathetic and outrageous. One of the venues in the town where I work wouldn't allow Real America's Voice to come there and hold an event. And Real America's Voice is like this conservative talk radio news thing or whatever on Roku. I'd never heard of it, but whatever. And so this theater said, no, we're 501c3. You know, therefore we really need to remain politically objective, and thanks, but no thanks, you know. But the irony is, at the time, right when they sent that email, they were having like a 2-week-long performance by Patrick Cassidy's company of Dolly Parton. It was a Dolly Parton play that they were putting on at that venue, except it wasn't really about Dolly Parton. It was about a guy finding himself and finding his sexuality as he prays and worships to Dolly Parton. You know, and what has been so awesome to watch was all of the people walking out of the show, like even before the intermission, you know. But again, it's like, you know, that fell flat on its face, as it deserved to, and it was hilarious to watch because they totally like misjudged their own audience, you know. But at the same time, it's like, wait a minute, so Real America's Voice can't come here because it's political, but you can have this show, which subverts a traditional white Christian Southern conservative icon and turns it into this, you know, twink Ishtar, you know, a twink.
He's a wordsmith, y'all. He's a wordsmith. Yeah. He's a writer. He's
that
flexing,
was brilliant, sir.
He's flexing.
Good job.
You know, and it's like Twinkie, you know, Homo Dolly is not political, but it's not to them, you know, and that's the thing. Like, the Overton window has shifted so much, you know, that like even eventually Drag Time Story Hour will not be, you know, and when I say them, I mean like the other 99.8% of the country, you know, that's not actually like alphabet, you know?
Yeah.
that's just like that are just like they're just like NPCs, dude. They're just blue team. They're just normies, you know, and they don't see that kind of thing as being political. They see it as being socially equitable or just or you know, whatever, all these buzzwords, and punching up, you know, whatever they want to call it. But you let
I think we need to start hosting events where like a guy in like a Hawaiian shirt with a Kevlar vest and an AR-15 and like a cigar just sits and reads like Bible stories to kids.
Cactus guy for that, actually. Cactus could do that job.
Okay, cool. Cactus sounds like a great. Oh yeah, Cactus from the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, there's Tricky. See that now it's a party.
Oh, dude, Tricky.
Tricky.
Oh my goodness, it is a spirit, Kathy. It is completely a spirit. But you know what it is? We need to do. All of us need to do what that pastor is doing. And I tell you, his interview with on Pints with Aquinas blessed me because he talks about wearing his priest's uniform everywhere he goes, and he prays for people. He's like, people ask me everywhere I go for people, and I said, I would do that.
This is something that I think is lacking in Protestant church culture, especially more of like the low church, evangelical, charismatic spaces that I'm a part of. Is like we don't have anything that like identifies us, especially in this day and age, to just like approach a random stranger wearing like a "Welcome to the Rebellion" T-shirt. Like, can I pray? It's kind of weird.
Well, at ECC at Encounter Christ Church, they had shirts made that said, "How can I pray with you?"
Yeah.
We would walk around with those. Like I would wear that anytime I flew. I would put that shirt on. But most people won't. They look at that and they're like, he's probably weird. But it's what's that?
Mormon. Or he's a Jehovah's Witness or a Mormon. He's a Scientologist. Wants me in his cult.
I have a free course for you. Here, quick, grab these cans.
Yeah, might be an area where like good design work plays a major role. Like I think of like Todd White's Lifestyle Christianity t-shirts. Like those look kind of cool actually. Like I just wear that on the street.
Yeah.
Without, thinking like I look like I walked out of a Lifeway in 2005.
Well, and that's that what I like about serving at the Presbyterian Church. I like the fact that, it was a part of my job description was you're going to be in a suit and tie every Sunday. And I hadn't had that as a requirement in over 10 years. Wow. But on a Sunday, it kind of makes you easy to identify like who's pastoral staff, But see, the thing is back in the day, well, actually not even back in the day, even now, if you're an Orthodox Jew, you're easy to identify.
Yeah.
And God told them, I want you to do these things so people know that you're different. And we're over here trying to look like the world. And that's what the point that he ended at was like, look, if you're enemies of the truth, then I'm an enemy of the world.
Yeah, that's actually my favorite part, man, because that really does.
Yeah, that was fire.
He had about 5 or 6 things in there that I need to chop up and chop out because they are just he's establishing a line. This is a line we don't cross. And we in the modern day church have swept away the line. So it is invisible, and people think they can act any which way they want. I can come to church dressed any way I want. I can come with my boobies hanging out and my shorts all the way up here. So my 14-year-old daughter bends over. I can see a whole new world. It's horrible. It's like, man, I'm about to show up at church like Stevie Wonder for real. Like, okay, y'all. So we're gonna lead in worship today, and since y'all won't tell your daughters how to dress, and y'all don't know how to dress yourselves, I'm gonna put on these glasses that I can't see nothing. And
that's funny.
Well, let's sing the 4 chords, yeah, because y'all don't know how to dress, because you want to be like the world.
Drives
me crazy.
Yeah. Yep.
But but you're being religious. You're being religious. Well, you just need to sanctify your mind. Excuse me? You need to put some friggin' clothes on.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of why I dig the idea of the Orthodox scene, because it seems to attract a lot of the like trad movement,
That's
and
why
like,
Catholics, Catholicism is on the rise because people want tradition.
Yeah,
they want something holy, something sacred.
Mm-hmm. And something Nick made a good point, because we were talking about me like actually going to an Orthodox church. There's I think it's an Antiochian Orthodox up the road, and Nick said, like, they do want tradition. We want something that is much like God, timeless and immutable, like something that looks like it could have been, like you're stepping into the Wayback Machine to 1,500 years ago.
Yeah.
Or 800 years ago. And I was like,
yeah. I do wonder. What I respect that. I mean, I'm very enamored by the Eastern Orthodox Church. I listen to Jonathan Peugeot and the Lord of Spirits podcast all the time. So it's like I feel like I have a toe in this world. Like I could at least, peek in and see like what these dudes with beers and incense are doing.
Smells and bells.
Smells and bells, man. I respect the smells and bells traditions, and I do think like if the Pentecostal charismatic church could be just a little more sacramental in our theology, we'd be unstoppable.
Yeah.
I think this is why the camps need to, the camps literally in Israel, once the nation was established, they had to come together 4 times a year, 5 or 6 times a year. Pesach, Shavuot, trumpets, Day of Atonement trumpets, and then I was right. Trumpets, Day of Atonement, and then Sukkot, Tabernacle. 5 times a year. I feel like I'm forgetting one. Y'all let me know in the comments the one that I'm forgetting, because I know I'm forgetting one. But the camps would literally come together, right? At least 5 times a year, and we don't have that in the modern church. We don't have that in modern day. We schism and break off into like 10,000 million branches, and then cut ourselves off from the source. Well, but the source is Jesus. Yeah, but how in the world are you going to be connected to a branch? I mean, like for instance, the Pentecostal church came out of the Methodist church. Mm-hmm. Do we still hang out with any Methodists? No. Now, granted, I know half the Methodist church is now gone anathema because they've gone to the affirming route. So that branch is getting burnt.
Well, then, yeah, it's all getting pruned. But they're all going to slowly do that because the political culture is going to shift in a way because of the weaponization, to where if you don't, you could lose your 501c3 status as, being prejudiced in your organization, and you could be open to litigation. So what a lot of them are doing are just trying to stay ahead of the game to keep from getting sued or shut down or lose their, not-for-profit status.
Lose it. Lose it. Let it burn it. Yeah. Just take that sucker, go live and burn that thing alive on air.
Yeah, dude. I mean, we have no idea how good we have it. I mean, just look at what the Chinese Christians deal with.
100%. I have a brother that hopefully Ian knows him, Chris Harrison. I'm hoping to have him and Steve on here. They're in Thailand ministering in the 1040 window. They're ministering in an area where their phones are monitored, the internet is monitored.
Yeah.
They go places where where Muslims have complete control.
Yeah.
It's real world. Real.
Yeah, that guy. Dude, Brother Chris, he's got some hot takes on his Facebook, man.
Oh,
I'm here for it.
He is all about, I saw him today and I'm like, woo, son. He's trying to get people to hit that unfollow or unfriend button.
He's trying to call his following list.
Dude. every year I would do a culling on Facebook, and it is the most cathartic. It was literally for like 3 years. It was the only reason I had a Facebook, was just to have a culling at some point. Like, I would build it up, the friends list up, just to see who I could cut out. Oh, it's so cathartic because it's so awful anyways. Everybody, social media, it's all trash, every bit of it.
I did want to make a comment about what Gabriel was saying about, the branches coming together, the camps coming together, and like there was a resurgence in interest in like Orthodoxy and Catholicism. And I do think like to come together, maybe Christianity, we need like a new thing, a new, I don't know, I hesitate to use the word ecumenical movement, because like the Reformation happened, and it happened for a reason, and you can't just go back. Like all these Catholics are like, like Greg Laurie started his church in 1980, whatever, and Jesus Christ started his church in like 33 AD. It's like, which church do you want to belong to? And I'm like, I see what you're saying on one hand, but like we just can't ignore, the Reformation. We can't ignore all these things. Like, they happen for a reason. And if we're going to come together, I do think like we just can't go back. It has to be something new. Like, God has to be doing a new thing, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll be a 95 thesis on the wall. But I think it starts with, like, I had a conversation with my buddy Rudy, and he was asking me about my heart behind Jesus Deserves More Than 4 Chords. I wasn't trying to do a shameless plug, but shameless plug. And he said, well, how are you going to bring about this change? And, because he understood these things that I was discussing with him at length. I mean, I went into all of it. And he's like, well, how in the world are you going to change that in the whole church? I'm like, I wrote a song. I was like, I can't change the whole church, but I can start by writing a song. And he's like, that's good, man. But I think it's like the Lord had me, has had me at this Presbyterian church serving and ministering and picking up how they do liturgy, picking up the language of their theology, and being able to, man, here we strongly agree here. Let's focus on this. Let's not get into the, well, or this and this. It's like, the Goslings, they get on this whole thing of the rapture. It's like, really? We're gonna spend our time, the limited finite time that we have on earth, arguing over this.
Yep, when we sure are. and it sucks.
Yeah, we're gonna do a whole 3-hour episode about this thing that we're
gonna be great.
That we're not gonna agree on. But to see, I agree with you. Ian, I don't know if it's gonna be some ecumenical thing, because that's become a dirty word these days, a very dirty word. But more of a, blessed are the peacemakers between the camps and the tribes and the denominations, which I don't like using that words, because I just kind of look at the church in that way.
Yeah.
It's camps and tribes. And there's, Christ unites us, and we have to focus on that. And I think as we adopt, if we can find value in how our brothers and sisters worship the Lord, and they see us finding value, and it's like when you go to, if you ever watch Zhao Meng, the polyglot from New York, the guy that like lived in China, speaks China. He speaks like 9 languages.
Yeah.
And he goes, and people light up when he starts to speak to them in their language, right? So you go to a Reformed believer and you start talking about the sovereignty of God, and they're just like, oh, he gets it. He gets me. You get to a Pentecostal and you start talking about the Holy Spirit and speaking things in faith, and they're like, oh man, he gets it. He gets me. You go to a Catholic and say, Mary was the mother of God. That's about as far as I'm going to go. And be like, well, okay.
Like, all right. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Right.
That is actually a weak point with me. There's to Jonathan's point. There's a couple that I met through political stuff. Her father's a priest in the Eastern Orthodox Church, so I'm getting ready to have coffee with them and discuss her husband. Actually, they just got married a few months ago, and her husband. What's the word? All I can think of is these things, this dumb modern terminology. He didn't transition. He didn't, what is the changing of one religion to another?
Conversion?
He converted. He converted to the Eastern Orthodox Church from, I don't know, Southern Baptist or something. But he's really
that's a big jump.
Yeah, but he finds theology and doctrine fascinating. And when I was talking to her about this, I was like, I gotta meet this guy because I haven't met him yet. So I was like, we gotta have coffee, and he and I gotta talk about this. Because I want to find hey, I know there's a reason they do the incense, and the funny thing is they got it from rabbinical worship. That's all from the temple. I mean, trust me, and I can get with Messianics, and brother, let me I know how to speak the Messianic thing. Y'all hear me drop my Jewish, Bible terminology, flexing a little bit. So it's just finding those points.
You had Paul Wilbur on.
Oh, exactly.
Channel. Like, come on.
It's like, hey, shalom, l'chaim. But I mean, it's finding those points of connection and value, and I think that's how it becomes something. And because I think if men started, I mean, unless the Lord give you a mandate, I want you to start this and call it this. We just need to just one at a time, one person at a time, like Brother Calvin did. Just be like, this is the truth. Here is the line. I love the Lord. If you love the Lord and you love the truth, you are my brother. Let us walk together and work out our own salvation with fear and trembling. And discuss these things.
Think of how the early church spread was just believers getting together, breaking bread, praying together, worshiping God together, listening to the scriptures read aloud and hearing the teachings of the apostles, and just meeting house to house. And that movement spread across the entire world.
Yep. The known world.
I am reminded of Chesterton's quote about how the church has died many times, but we follow the God who knows his way out of the grave.
That's good.
It's a loose paraphrase, but that's the gist of it. And I think we're in that moment. I do like the mainline denominations have been dying for the last 100 years. The evangelical world is entering into its moment right now, especially being accelerated over the whole LGBTQIA LMNOP thing.
Carrot sign. Emoji.
Carrot sign, yes.
Emoji smile.
Yeah, like the evangelical church is entering into its moment that the mainline denominations had over like the fundamentalist liberalism, like that split. So like now, everything's fracturing, everything's splitting, like the denominations are dying. Church attendance is at an all-time low right now.
Sure.
Which is great. It sounds horrible, but it's great news, because if we're dying, a resurrection must be
well,
coming.
That's how revival and renewal comes about. And there was, so the guy that started the Babylon Bee, Adam 4D, I don't know I can't remember his actual name, but he's a Christian cartoonist. He's the one that started the Babylon Bee, and he still owns Not the Bee. He's on the reform side, but his Christian cartoons they'll make you laugh, they'll make you think, and they'll make you cry. They're so poignant. And one of the ones that he did talked exactly about that, about church attendance through since the 70s. And it's basically people that were, there was a video from one of those red pill shows. I think it's Whatever. And there was a girl that said she was a Christian, but then said she didn't believe in the Bible. She didn't believe in Jesus. And the guy was like, you just said you're a Christian. Well, I am. But you don't believe in that? No, you're not a Christian. So what we are finding, church attendance isn't low. We're finding out who the sheep and goats are. And when the pizzazz, now this is This is, I feel the Lord, this, I feel like this is not me. When the pizzazz of the entertainment has worn off and people have seen the show, they've seen the strings, they've seen the lights. When they're done with it, they're going to go looking for something real. And if there's not something real at the end of that light show, they out.
Yeah.
They're out. And they're looking for places that have something real. And it ain't just in the Pentecostal churches, because I'm telling you, man, that Reformed Presbyterian church that I've been serving at, that pastor labors over the word he preaches. And I have yet to be there on a Sunday where he preached, where I did not walk away full. Yeah. I mean, I always have a nugget that I'm carrying with me till at least Thursday. And some that I can still recall. Is it cold? Yeah, it's not fiery. It's not, it's not, we don't get excited.
Yeah.
But those people love each other. They are dedicated to discipling in the word. And there's other congregations like that, Messianics. There's some non-denominational places. Of course, there's, plenty of Pentecostal places where they're keeping it real. And when you keep it real, it's hard to draw a big crowd in keeping it real. Well, it used to be, but we're going to find in the coming months that those that are willing to stand up for the truth, they will see explosive growth. They'll see multiplication, because people are tired of the sissies. They're tired of the fearmonger. They're tired of those that are afraid of saying the truth. They're seeing these Calvin Robinson clips, and they're like, I want to go to a church and hear a pastor talk about like Jensen, not Jensen Franklin, like who was the pastor we talked about last time? We did the reaction to. It was Loran Livingston. Loran Livingston.
Yeah, he's Church of God, right?
He's Church of God. He calls balls and strikes, man. When something happens in the world that's crazy that people are talking about, he addresses it. He's not one of these to be like, and listen, I know the world is out there crazy, but we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the word. We're going to talk about the word of God. Like, that's a cop-out. And everybody knows it's a cop-out when people won't address the obvious. They don't address the brachiosaurus in the room. Forget the elephant, man. The elephant is minute to the craziness we have going on this planet right now. I'm not even looking at the comments. That's what
gets me about all these discernment YouTube channels, like quote unquote discernment ministries on the internet. It's like the hordes of Mordor are advancing, and you want to quibble about what I might mean when I say, like speak something into existence, or like speaking in tongues. Like, we want to quibble over like these things when there's like a mountain of agreement that we have about, far more pressing matters.
It's time to unite. And I enjoy when Wretched Radio, when he addresses stuff going on in the world much more. I feel like he goes after people in the church when there's nothing in the world for him to go after. It's like, well, nothing really happened newsworthy today. Let me find let's see, Osteen, what was his name? You said his name, the guy with the dreads.
Oh yeah, Todd White.
Todd White. Let me find one of these guys and find a clip, and let me just go off on this guy again. Unfortunately, all camps are doing things for clicks and views these days.
Yeah.
Which is sad. It's unnecessary.
It is.
It is completely unnecessary. Jonathan, any parting thoughts?
Yeah, the church, for whatever it is it's going to suffer a loss in attendance where it needs to, because why bother going? Like, why bother going to something? Why bother going to all the trouble of getting up early on a Sunday, putting on uncomfortable clothes, getting your family together, driving and sitting in a place that's just going to sound like, anywhere else, So in some ways, the church is going to die off where it needs to die off. And then you're going to have, like you say, you're going to have, growth where it needs to be. And that'll sustain for a little while until it becomes so socially untenable for those organizations to exist, probably in the next like 10 years.
Less.
You know?
I believe less.
Probably. That we're going to basically end up in small groups like
Home
they
churches.
are in China.
Home
Underground.
churches. Yeah, underground. There was Pastor Allen had someone on his podcast either right before or right after COVID that basically prophesied that it will be that churches will lose the 501c3. Anybody that anyone that preaches against it, which of course will only be the churches, because like Calvin pointed out, they ain't gonna do it to the Muslims.
Oh yeah,
They're
not.
They ain't gonna poke that bear.
Yeah, net positive Andrew Tate was right about that.
That's a fact, and I've been saying that for years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, really? The disagreement that Jews, Muslims, and Christians have is about Yeshua. And the funny thing is, Muslims agree more with Christians than they do the Jews on Jesus. Because Jews are like, Jesus, who's that? We don't know who that is.
Yeah, what is it? They burning in a river of excrement. You know, I mean, it's just
the Jews.
Well, yeah.
No, they just say he was a fraud. You know, they just basically like, oh, he's a fraud. I don't know. They quickly leave the conversation. Whereas in Islam, they address him like they do Muhammad. They have to say peace be upon him every time they say his name.
Yeah.
Every time they say Issa, Jesus, peace, but they follow it by saying peace be upon him. And the funny thing is, there's I don't know if it was Indonesian or an Indian imam that came to the Lord from reading his own text on Jesus. He's like, the Bible says that Jesus was born of a virgin. The Quran says that Jesus was born of a virgin. Muhammad was not born of a virgin. The Bible says that Jesus did miracles. The Quran said that Jesus did miracles.
Yeah, but you know, South Park had that dialed in like 20 years ago when they made their episode. I don't even think it was like one of the most infamous ones, but they were criticizing Islam. And I don't remember if it was a Family Guy episode or not, but there literally was a scene at the end where they had, I think it was George Bush or Santa Claus, pooping and farting on like a Catholic cutout of Jesus, you know, and then on George Bush, and it was just like poop everywhere, you know. And they said in their commentary of the episode, they were like, yeah, I mean, we don't have anything against it. Like, we were doing that because it's like, you know, this country is so jacked up. Like, you can make fun of, you literally could have George Bush pooping on Jesus, and it's perfectly fine. But if you like criticize Islam or Muhammad, like, you know, you get shut down, you know.
They'll pull the episode. They'll censor that entire portion of the episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, they'll censor the part, where you talk about Muhammad, but you know, you can poop on Jesus, like literally, and it's, you know, so and that's why we need the Armenians, folks.
Oh yeah, Miss Karen, she wanted to know about that, so I told her we would talk about that before we headed out. So this is gonna be the last thing, then we're gonna peace out.
Yep.
Because it's now been we just went another hour, like it was 20 minutes,
just like that.
I feel like that hourglass in Harry Potter. Y'all forgive me if that offends you, but it's
wow.
You know, when the
I thought you were saved. So.
I know. I'm working on it. I'm a sinner saved by grace. Does it help that I feel convicted sometimes about it?
Yeah.
But you know, they have the stimulated conversation in the hourglass. The sand stops. So yeah, Miss Karen, what it was, who started the protest? Was it the Armenians or was it the alphabet people?
Well, the Antifa people showed up and got a little too aggressive with the Armenian fathers who were out there protesting while their wives were inside attending the school, touched someone on the Armenian side in a not friendly way, and things took their natural course.
Yeah, well, before that happened, there is video footage of some arguments, some heated discussions between these crazy people and these Armenians. And the sad thing is you have these, native-born Caucasians, and you have these immigrants, and the immigrants are the one holding the American flag.
Yep.
Furious
Yeah.
that these people are holding up this false flag. That's funny. That might be prophetic there. Of this alphabet flag with all these putrid colors. I mean, it really literally looks like poop.
Yeah, of course.
And
Yeah.
they're talking about, that they would burn the American flag. And it's like, you wouldn't burn that flag. And this flag is, like they were getting upset. But they were also sitting there and telling them what they were and saying, you don't mess with our kids.
Yeah.
What you're doing is wrong. I mean, I'm doing the most G-rated thing because the Armenians weren't cursing, but they were calling them pedos and, you're not going to harm our children and you're not going to do this. And
yeah.
And then
And good for
And then somebody on that other side went too far, and the Armenians were not a bunch of sissies that were going to be pushed around. So they kind of skipped over that thing. And this is where Jonathan and I were talking earlier today, and I was like, yeah, I wrestle with some of these things because they did not turn the other cheek. Or if they did, it's like you get one. And they got one, and that was it. And it was on. And they started tearing those stupid people up. And then the cops came in and started arresting the Armenians because that's how our justice system works, where the antagonizers and the true devils get to run away with, they get away with murder, literally. They get away with murder.
They're by the government that hates you and knows it can control them.
Hillary Clinton gets away with murder. Yeah.
She's selling hats that say but her emails on them. Like, she's so emboldened right now. It's sick.
But anyway, so that was the whole thing with the Armenian transicide.
yeah, I think that's called it. The Armenian transicide.
Yeah, the Armenian tranticide.
Tranticide. That's right. Yeah. No disrespect to Armenian brethren. I'm with you, Armenians. Yeah. Not a fan of the Turks. What can I say?
Well, what would happen if it was more believers out there with them?
Yeah.
If you get whole congregations, and this is the type of stuff that I'm thinking out loud. But what would it be if you got a couple congregations together to show up at one of these drag show book reading things and stand in front of the building and just pray?
Yeah.
And stand it so people cannot get in the building.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you going to do when 300 believers show up to pray? People ain't going to be around that. And you don't even have to be violent. There was actually, and I'll give you an example. I don't think it's something we need to be afraid of either. I'm with you, I'm with you, Jonathan. There, I don't think. I think there's a time for martyrdom and there's a time for defense, and especially when it's involving our children and the next generation. Yeah, time to defend, church. But a local church, Fire Church, actually Dr. Michael Brown's church, they had some statement about, Dr. Michael Brown said something about, the alphabet people, these goofy people that need Jesus. And they organized a protest. They showed up on a Sunday morning. And you know what that church did? They came out, brought snacks, brought water bottles, and they all left.
Yeah.
A few people stayed and talked with them. I don't think any of them actually went inside for the service, but all of them left. Which that's something out of like a movie, right? The girl hands the flower and then it's just like, oh, it's over.
Right.
I don't know if that's going to happen every time. And there was a lot of God-fearing men that were part of the Revolutionary War, but we'll just leave it there. You know, just watch the pastors react. You know, the shepherd must defend the sheep against the wolves, and that is what I believe we're missing. Because am I saying that pastors need to go out there armed and start fighting the battle on that way? I'm not suggesting that. However, to ignore once again the brachiosaur in the church is a tremendous disservice, because we all see it. We all see it, and we see the cowardice, and that's exactly what it is. It's cowardice, and it stinks. It stinks. Fear stinks. There's a smell of fear, and we need to shake it off of our necks, because what does God say? He hadn't given us a spirit of fear. Okay. I think that's enough for tonight. I'm gonna give you guys. So, any last thoughts that you want to add on to that? Jonathan, then Ian.
Well, depending on who you ask, you only have so many cheeks to turn.
I mean, you really have a total of 4.
Right.
That's
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I just I think there's a lot of cowardice masquerading as virtue.
Ooh,
and
that's good.
You have to be aggressive. No war has ever in the history of human history been won defensively, so defense is not enough. You have to find them. You have to hunt them down. You have to put them back in their place. You have to do everything you need to do, because it is a war and they're fighting it and we're not. And we're never going to win defensively. So until men can start sacking up and start getting that, like, there's just no men in Christianity anymore who are genuinely and unashamedly hungry for the blood. And until you get hungry for the blood, we're just going to keep losing. And you might as well just be a fatalist at that point. So, and that's where we're going. And and we have no community, so we won't like band together and spend bro time to like reinforce that, so that you could eventually get to a point where you're like, yeah, there are enough of us to where, like, yeah, we're going to actually go over there and we're going to make that stop, and we're going to make it stop. We're going to make it stop. It stops today, and we're making it stop. And we're going to do whatever we have to do to make it stop. And that's okay. And not only is that okay, but we're all yearning for it. And until you get to that point, yeah, it's a loss. It's an absolute loss. I mean, Alan, who was it? Alan West, the retired black like brigadier general or whatever he was
from Texas. He's running for I know what you're talking about.
National treasure.
Yes, he is.
I've been beating this drum for like 20 years. It's one of the reasons why I left the church, because there aren't aggressive, true, legitimate, actual warrior Christian men. There are no crusaders left. There's no one willing to like say, hey, you're going to stop that because I'm telling you to stop it, or I'm going to put holes in you and I'm going to do things to you that like would make God blush. So you're going to stop it, or I'm going to make you stop, and I'm going to make everybody in your family stop.
Oh, come on. You've read the New Old Testament. You can't make them blush.
Yeah, but I'd love to try. And so,
I believe you would.
I would, yeah. And so until you're ready to do that, like, but Alan West talked about that. It's like no more. And I mean, again, like, it's so frustrating watching somebody that like all conservatives and all Christians will laud as being a national treasure say the exact same thing that no one has been agreeing with me for 20 years. That like, yeah, no war is won defensively. Like, yeah, you don't need 100% of a plan to enact a plan. Like 80% of a plan is good enough. Start there and go forward, because no plan is going to survive first contact with the enemy. And we are in a war, and the enemy hates you, and it hates your children. And if that doesn't make you man enough to like actually go stop it, then like what is, like, it's just, I'm done. Yeah. Good night. So, I brought water, by the way.
All right, Ian.
I don't know how to follow that other than to say, like, being on this stream, I feel like I'm definitely on some watch list now. So
I promise,
which is fine. I don't have a problem with that, but
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You're good, man. You're good. No, I know. For me, like, just to throw back to what you said about, like getting congregation or a couple congregations outside of one of these events and just praying, like, all for that. And we need to start laying the groundwork, though, in our churches in order to do that, because if you're going to be praying out loud en masse at some of these places, like, get ready for the demons to start manifesting, and we're just not ready for the demons to start manifesting yet. So it's an exciting time to be, doing what we're doing, because we get to lay that groundwork and that framework for people to be taught, like, biblical spiritual warfare.
Yeah.
And once we get that, then we can start doing some of these things.
You know what, Ian, that's so true. And one of the things that I've really been thinking about that you probably have a more multi-dimensional approach to than I do, is I have come to realize in my own life that, like, bullies only respond to being forced into stop being bullies, and so when somebody is bullying you on a certain, whether it's personal or ecumenical or organizational or governmental or whatever, you can't love the bully into being your friend. It'll probably get there, but the first thing you have to do is bash the bully's nose in, and whether that's spiritual or voting with your dollars, or, like, whatever, in Minecraft, In
Minecraft, yeah. If worse comes to worse and you're on a Minecraft server and, something goes down on the Minecraft game, I understand, but...
Yeah. But you do, and people like me, I need people like Ian and Gabe in my life to, provide balance. I really love that Andrew Tate interview on PBD, where he spent like 20-30 minutes talking about his relationship with his brother. It's the coolest thing. Like, even if you don't like Andrew Tate, or even if, like, you're not impressed by him or whatever, listening to him talk about his relationship with his brother was just like, it was such a cool thing. Everybody should go watch that. That was really good.
Yeah, that was a good segment, because I'm not a fan of Andrew Tate. I have no respect for the guy. I think he's a complete fraud. But that actually seemed very genuine, and I was touched. I was touched by what he had to say about his relationship with his brother. That was like, okay, this is the real Andrew Tate, and, like, I respect what I'm hearing here.
Ian might know, you might know more about Andrew Tate than I do. Gabe, next episode of saying the Quiet Part Out Loud, we should talk about Andrew Tate.
Just do the whole episode on Andrew Tate.
I'm so down.
Deep dive.
Oh, I am 100%
deep dive on Andrew
I'm
Tate.
100% down for that. I'm 100% down for that, because he is a
he's an interesting guy.
I'm not going to get started now, because we'll go another hour and 5 minutes.
We'll go total Tate.
Yeah. So I'm gonna wrap it up here with exactly what we were talking about earlier today, Jonathan, about needing those that balance us out, because oftentimes what we have done in the church, the weapons of our warfare are not carnal; these are principalities and powers, and then we don't vote. We run from the problem, right? And then you have others that they're signing up for the Proud Boys, and they got 10,000 rounds of ammo, and they're ready for war. And perhaps it's not either or, it's and.
Yeah.
It's both. It's both. And history has taught us it's both.
Yeah.
Now some would say, well, in the early church, they didn't do any of that stuff. Well, they didn't have the opportunity because they were under Roman rule. I don't believe they could own weapons or mobilize.
Yeah.
if they could have, I would be very interested to see how it turned out, because it would have been a very different thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's either or. I don't think it's, well, we all fast and pray and that's all we do, and pray, just hope and pray that this next election has no funkiness, which, by the way, now on YouTube, that was the other thing I was going to put on YouTube. You no longer will get a strike for making claims of election fraud. They removed that from the strike policy.
Yeah, for now.
For now.
Until it's
until the next election.
2024.
Until the next election, but it's just amusing to me that they've walked back vaccine stuff, they've walked back COVID stuff, and now they're walking back the voting stuff.
Mm-hmm. So they played the waiting.
I think sometimes there's a time to go to the church. Let me tell you, we should all be praying in our prayer closets all the time. Okay, believers. And there's a time for us to come together to the church to pray. And there's a time for us to go out into the community as the church and do exactly what Jonathan said. Enough. Right? I mean, that Calvin Robinson just showed us. He went in there like a father. And anytime they started to speak up, and there was somebody that was cursing in the background, he said, "Stop that language." He was stopping them immediately. And what did they do? Because these people have never been disciplined in their life. They don't even know what discipline is. They're completely immobilized. Which is why I don't even think it's going to come to, most of the time, you don't need violence. Because most of these people, they haven't even been, they are beyond the 80s bullies. Like the 80s bullies, like this ain't Biff who knows how to throw a punch. These people are they sit behind keyboards, they don't know how to do any of this stuff. So when you actually face up, what do? They back up and they yell, and they point fingers and they yell as they're running away, like, Sir Robin.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just pray. It's not, get your arms, don't tread on me. I believe it's both.
Yep. Amen, brother. That's right.
Yeah, and there's Pastor Mike saying, throughout history there has always been Christians that went to war, and that will never stop. But we need to, as the church, yell, "No stop." Hold up, that I need some commas in there to know exactly what that means, because I could interpret that 4 different ways.
That is the one time I'll vouch for the Oxford comma.
Yes. But yeah, we haven't, as the church, we've been very silent. The church was completely silent, exactly to Ian's point, when this thing that, this homosexual marriage was given a rubber stamp by the Supreme Court. Where was the church? Well, the world's going to be the world, and the Lord's coming back, so,
Yeah, suicide cult. Might as well just drink
Pass the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Yes, stop this evil government, absolutely. And I think it's going to take prayer and getting in the game. Yeah. We're not going to, the Christian, let me tell you, we're not going to win the game on the bench. And if we don't, and it's not going to happen at just the ballot box. President Trump or Ron DeSantis ain't going to fix the problem in our communities, in our states. Okay?
Yeah.
It ain't. They ain't going to do it until we go out and we're at the grocery store and we see some foolishness and we say, you need to stop.
Mm-hmm. Not today, Satan.
Run for school board. Run for city council.
The Christians are doing it.
I mean, if 2020 taught us anything about the political system in America, it's immensely more important who your local sheriff is than who's in the White House.
Because when they start mandating this craziness, and that, like in my town, where the mayor goes to a friend of mine who's a pastor, he goes to his congregation. Yeah, there's a line that he's going to go right up to, but he's not going to step over that line because he's held accountable by everybody in that congregation. And he's got people like me that show up to the town meetings, which I didn't show up to yesterday, but typically I show up to my town meetings to see what's y'all doing.
Yeah.
And I literally go in there with a smile on my face, but I'm one of the few people that goes consistently, and I speak up. So they know, oh, this crazy Mohawk guy, this crazy Mohawk Dominican that lives over here with all these rednecks. You know, he's got a big old beard, and you know, I don't actually walk into those meetings with my conceal because they always have police officers there and the sign that says you can't. Otherwise, I would. If the police officer wasn't there, I'm like, that sign does not exist in this dojo, does it? No, sensei. But because there's always police there, I'm like, well, I'm not trying to get arrested today. So, but
Do they want?
huh?
Do they want you?
No, but you know, just you know, if you stand up and you know the seat catches your jacket and it's like there it is, and you're just like, oh, you know, you just don't want to have that conversation unnecessarily. Yeah. So trust me, but everywhere else I go, you know, I'm the type of dude like, look, this is I'm saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost, love the Lord, healed of cancer, 20 years old, been in ministry 20 plus years. But I go to the movie theater and I'm armed because there's been shootings near where I live in the movie theater. There was a guy that was murdered in Concord Mills because of some ruckus and kids acting the fool. So I'm not going and waiting 20 minutes for the cops to show up, especially if I'm going with my family. Gabe is armed with one in the chamber, and I will pray with them in the Holy Ghost after it's all said and done. But it's gonna be after.
Yes,
like Mr. Miyagi said, after. I might be wrong, and if I am, I will grow in the Lord, and I will get to that point where I will lay down the sword.
Mm-hmm.
But until that time, I'm gonna be armed. I'm gonna have the word, and I'm gonna have a sword.
Yeah, sell your cloak and buy a sword, man. You know, it's not a metaphor. So, you know, I say like go armed. I'm armed literally everywhere I can physically get away with it.
Ditto.
You wand me, pat me down, or put me through a metal detector. If you can't find it, and if I think I can get away with it,
that's the whole point of concealed is like, you don't know.
Yeah. And it's none of your business. And it's my constitutional right.
No. It's my God-given right that the Constitution recognizes.
Yeah. And like, I trust my ability over almost everyone else's. And my safety is my personal responsibility. And it is also my personal responsibility, the safety of anybody who is with me, whom I love. Therefore, I am armed at all times, everywhere I go, unless I absolutely cannot get away with it.
Yep. And too many believers they're armed spiritually, but they shrink when it comes to it's game time. And this is actually something that my brother Sharvis and I were going to talk about where I believe the reformers are right in their critiques of the charismatic and Pentecostal church. But oftentimes Pentecostal, well, just not just Pentecostal, but most believers are unequipped to deal with something when it happens outside of a church building. Like church, in the church, somebody starts, I've been in church services, I don't know if you have, Ian, where witches come, where demons manifest. I've been in those services. Yep. Sometimes people want deliverance. Sometimes they run shrieking out of the building because they don't want to be delivered. Well, you don't want to be delivered. You want those demons living with you? Then by all means, that's your God-given right. Enjoy your freedom living with demonic oppression and possession. But you take them outside of that church service with the music and all this safety, and they see something crazy happen in the grocery store. They're just like, once again, Homer Simpson into the bushes. And this is where we have to get that boldness, where we're not going to shrink. Because sometimes it might take you with physical force to stop because, hey, man, if you're praying and the Lord ain't stopping it, guess what? He gave you 2 arms, 2 legs. And what are you going to do? Well, I went and called 911, and then he unalived 4 people until the cops got there. But if you'd have been armed and if you'd have been prepared to protect people, and these are the conversations that very few pastors, thankfully the last few pastors I've served with, understand this. 2 No. 3 of the last 4 pastors I've served under went to the pulpit packing. They brought the word, and they had one of them had a 22, one of them had a 9mm, and one of them had a 44.
No. Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was like, hey, you know, I was like, that's.
Yeah.
But he understood. He's looking right there at the back door. I'm going to see him first. And like most congregations, this is why we've had even shootings in church. I didn't even mean to go here. We're burning into a whole other half hour, but you know, maybe y'all need to hear this and have these conversations amongst those that you worship with. If you don't have somebody at the door, just being mindful, standing at the gate, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing in this day and age that you are not paying attention to who's coming in and out of your congregation?
Yeah.
That's a serious liability, spiritually and physically.
Yeah, it's extremely irresponsible. Yeah.
You didn't, now the argument is, well, they didn't do that in the early church. Well, yeah, they were going to people's homes, or they were going to where people were.
Yeah.
It was a little different, you know. But I guarantee you, they had security at the synagogue.
Yeah, still do. They try to hire Goyim to run it.
Well, yeah, well, at normal synagogues, and I thought you were talking about Jerusalem, but yeah, especially at modern day regular synagogues, they absolutely do, because they're under constant threat. But in Jerusalem, man, they got because it's basically a counter peg. A counter peg. That's so funny.
We've been streaming too long.
Yep, it's time for Gabe to go to bed.
Counter peg.
It's a powder keg because they literally have like a Christian, Islam, and Jewish side of the city of Jerusalem. It's wild. It's wild.
Have that, Gabe?
What's that?
You know where they don't have that problem? Ethiopia.
Oh yeah.
And that's another thing we can talk about next episode.
Oh, dude, you've got. You know what you need to do? You've got to send me and Ian some stuff to study, because my knowledge is very superficial, very surface level when it comes to that. But we had a 30, 45-minute conversation today just concerning the Ethiopian Bible, the Ark of the Covenant possibly being there.
I'm aware of like different traditions about Ethiopia and the Queen of Sheba and Solomon's son and the Ark and all that, but not super in depth.
Well, fine. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, no, just send me the info. I'll read it.
Yeah. No, I have to.
I have
to. Yeah, Jonathan, you're gonna love this. So, Michael H in the comments, he's a pastor. He's actually sent me a couple things. I saw the message, Pastor Mike, but I haven't seen the email. I haven't got to read the email yet. But he said he's got his 45. So
yeah,
he gets. Okay, Ian, can you drop all your stuff, all your links in the comments real quick before we peace out of here? Jonathan, you do the same. I'm going to do the Patreon. So if this is blessing you, I know Kiss Caps is a patron. And honestly, y'all, I mean, I think I have 4 or 5 patrons so far. And all I do is I take this money and I'm pouring it into By Faith. So By Faith is the studio that I'm building to teach people how to minister in music, and it will be a home for podcasters, Christian podcasters, to share the gospel through whatever it is that they do. Here is a link to listen to my albums, because I have a bunch of Christian music. Because if you didn't know, I am a Christian musician, a Christian jazz musician, a #1 Billboard recording artist. Who cares? It's about the gospel for me. So if you need anointed music to listen to and you're tired of hearing the same 4 chords in church, you will listen to my music and be blessed. And here's a place where you can get some of my T-shirts and other stuff. So there's my links. Ian is hopefully dropping his stuff in there.
Yeah, I've dropped my podcast link and my Instagram. So feel free to hit me up in the DMs. I'm on Instagram.
I don't see it
probably
in
where I
there.
hang out the most.
Where did you put it in the comments?
Sorry, I put it in the chat.
You put it in our chat. Oh.
No, I put it in the YouTube chat.
Did you?
Yeah.
I don't see it. Do you see it, Jonathan?
I did not. No.
Yeah, I don't see it. I don't see it, Ian.
Yeah, I'll drop them again.
Here, put it in the chat here in Zoom, and I'll share it. That way, it's for sure gonna get in there.
Okay.
Bingo. Okay,
I'll
copy
grab the
link.
other one. Where'd it go? Oh, here it is.
The Song in a Zord. Yes, Chris Caps. I am more than halfway through writing the horn charts. I've actually written the horn charts for coming to this house. I've just got to put the articulations in it, and then we're going to get the horns to record it, and I'm going to record my saxophone solos live for everybody to hear, and then we're going to release that. So, because I'm going to get all this stuff out there. Jonathan, okay, there it is, Anchor FM. Jonathan, did you put the Goslings thing in there, the Goslings link?
I did it earlier. I'll go ahead and
Drop it again, and drop your Amazon link for Heavenly Realms.
Yeah, I would do that. You guys can go to, you just look up the Goslings, 2 S's on YouTube, and then you could always go to Amazon for my books. The link is in the chat, but if you just go to Amazon, you look up Heavenly Realms by Jonathan Goss, you'll be able to find my stuff. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I think that's it. We have an email. If you want to email us, you can email us at thegoslingsgroup@gmail.com. That's another one too. And then, YouTube should just be youtube.com/@thegoslings. And then I think that's everything. So, yeah. We're doing a special Father's Day episode with Jacob Beach from the Preppers Bunker Outdoors YouTube channel, since Nick is going to be out of town this Sunday. So that's going to be cool.
And what was the name of the lady that you had just had her on, the lady from the live streams this past Sunday?
Oh, yeah. Jesse's.
What was her last name again?
Zaboter.
And you had just had her
I'm
on.
halfway through that episode. It's really good.
Yeah, you had her on like just a couple months ago, right? And it's already got 4,000 views in just over 24 hours. So, they talked to some people that have had some crazy experiences, y'all, and they are definitely they are pulling up and shining light in very dark places, places.
Jesse's great for that too. Like, we cast a wide net. We interview like some fun people. We have like some cool writing, guests like Stephen Pressfield, and then we have just some funny guests. But a lot of our people are like Gary Wayne, Jesse Zaboter, Derek Gilbert, Elisa Childers. There are a bunch of people out there that we interview that have a definitive message. Vicky Joy Anderson, she's awesome.
Yes.
And most of our guests tend to be repeat guests also. So it's a lot of fun. I mean, even though like the subject matter a lot of times is really heavy, our guests they seem comfortable and they seem to enjoy it.
And they're not afraid. So it doesn't, while it's heavy, it doesn't come off as, oh my gosh, this is so horrible. It's just, this is the problem, and we're going to address it, and we're going to face it. We're going to strike down the darkness. That's the whole motto of y'all's ministry.
Take up the broken sword of your father and strike down the darkness.
Amen. Amen. I just dropped my latest video as well. This is a Psalm, the Psalm 23 that Steve Reese decoded straight from the Bible using the Hebraic letters to spell out the chords. If that doesn't make sense to you, please go watch that interview that I did with him last week. It will bless you. But it sounds to me like when I heard this, how David would have sang this song. It's rough on the vocal side because I literally did it in a take, in like a take and a half. But it will bless you. It's recorded in 528 hertz, which that's solfeggio tones. But if you just need some anointed music to pray to meditate to scripture to, check out that link. That's it. Thank you so much, Pastor Michael H., Brother Cactus, Miss Karen, Miss Kathy. Much love to my mom, Brother Tricky, Sister Heather, who was in here earlier. I'm trying to go through up and see, make sure I don't miss anybody. I think I said Kathy already, and Karen, and Kathy, and Karen, and Tricky, and Caps. Yeah, Brother Caps, who is one of my patrons. So thank you, Brother Caps, for supporting and encouraging me. And that is it for tonight. So we did this last month. We did, about 5 weeks ago, and we might have to do that Andrew Tate one in about 3 weeks. We might have to do that one little sooner rather than later. And I think Ian's pretty hip, so maybe Jonathan, we can get him to watch the 13th Warrior, and we can include him in that discussion.
I've seen it.
Oh,
great movie.
Woo! He gets a Ric Flair woo for that. So okay, yeah, we're just gonna have to do that. Yeah, we'll just have to do that in Quiet Part Out Loud. All right, y'all. Be blessed, and we will see you later. That's the wrong one. This is the one.